I woke up with an arrow wound in my chest and two sets of memories fighting for space in my brain like roommates arguing over the thermostat. Let me get this straight. My dad was the emperor. He died, and instead of me, his legitimate son, getting the throne, my uncle just took it. Said I was too young to rule. I was 9. Okay, maybe he had a tiny point. But then he promised in front of my dead dad's spirit tablet that he'd give me the throne when I turned 16. Guess what's happening in half a month? I'm turning 16. And guess what else is happening? His 6 sons are trying to kill me every other Tuesday. The original owner of this body spent 7 years being the biggest doormat in imperial history. People literally called him Turtle Prince and Coward of the Eastern Palace. He couldn't make eye contact. He couldn't talk back. He couldn't even breathe loudly around these people. The spring hunt accident where I got shot with an arrow. Yeah, that was big cousin Xiaoyu's bodyguard who, accidentally, aimed at my chest. Accidentally. Sure. And I, accidentally, died and got replaced by me. I barely had time to process any of this when my bedroom door got kicked open. In walks Xiaoyu himself. Dragon robe, jade belt, sword on his hip, for armed guards behind him. Full villain entrance. 10 out of 10 on the intimidation scale. And my body? My stupid body just flinched backwards like a kicked puppy. That wasn't me. That was 7 years of muscle memory. My mouth even squeaked out, "Be big, brother," in this pathetic little voice that made me want to slap myself. He sat down at my table, crossed his legs, and started yelling about how the northern barbarians broke through the border and took 3 provinces. Somehow this was my fault. I'm the powerless puppet prince locked in a palace, and somehow the military collapse is on me. Then he slapped me across the face. Slapped me. And I just took it, because this body is programmed to take it. But then he noticed Baisu. Baisu is my personal maid. She's been with me since we were kids. She's basically my little sister. She was standing there holding my medicine bowl, shaking like a leaf, and this absolute piece of garbage grabbed her chin and started making comments about how pretty she was. He pulled at her collar, ripped her sleeve. She screamed. She was crying. She was calling for me to save her. And my body was shaking. Not from fear, from habit. 7 years of, just endure it, just survive until 16, had turned the original me into a professional coward. But I'm not him anymore. Something in my head just snapped. There was a sword on the wall. My father's sword. The real emperor's sword. The original Xiao Lai used to kneel in front of it and cry. Never once pulled it out. Just cried at it like it was a therapist. I pulled it out. Stop. I didn't even say it loud. But the entire palace went dead silent. Xiaoyu turned around with this stupid smirk like, "Oh, the puppy learned to bark?" He didn't finish that thought. Because the next thing he knew, my father's blade was pressed against his throat. His smile froze like someone hit pause on his face. You dare, I dare, and then I just let it all out. 7 years of this body's suffering came pouring through my mouth like a broken dam. I'm the crown prince, the legitimate heir. You're nothing. Your father stole this throne, and you have the audacity to walk into my palace with armed guards and put your hands on my people? I twisted the blade. Cut his skin. Just a little. Just enough for a thin red line to appear on his neck. His face went from arrogant to terrified in about half a second. Beautiful transition. Should have painted it. You're insane. You'll pay for this. Pay for what? You broke into the Eastern Palace with weapons and armed men. I could cut your head off right now and it'd be self-defense. I kicked the back of his knee and he dropped like a sack of rice. The Crown Prince's #1 bully, kneeling on my floor. Every guard, every eunuch, every maid in the room was shaking. I smacked him across the face with the flat of the blade. Bonk. He went flying sideways, forehead smacking the stone floor. Blood everywhere. Beautiful. Then I pulled Baisu behind me. Don't be scared. Nobody's touching you again. Ever. She was still crying, but I could feel her grip tighten on my sleeve. I looked down at Xiaoyu, who was screaming like a stuck pig about how I'd regret this, and how I'd have to explain myself. You want the crown prince position? Then you kneel when you talk to me about it. Take your dogs and get out of my palace. As for explanations, tomorrow, in court, I'll give you all the explanation you can handle. My chest wound had ripped open again. Blood was soaking through my robes. My hands were shaking from the old body's fear reflex fighting against my new brain's rage. But my spine? My spine was straight. First day in this body, and I already have one death threat, one bleeding chest wound, one traumatized maid, one humiliated cousin, and a court appearance tomorrow where I'll probably need to explain why I put a sword to a prince's throat. This is going to be fun. Next morning, court session. Time to face the music. I walked into that throne room, and let me tell you, I made an entrance. White mourning robes, my dead father's spirit tablet in my hands, his sword on my hip, blood seeping through my clothes from the chest wound that still hadn't healed because apparently nobody in this palace has heard of stitches. Every single official in that hall could smell the blood on me. Good. Set the mood. But before I even opened my mouth, guess who was already running his mouth? Xiao Yu, standing there with a white bandage wrapped around his neck like a fashion accessory, hiding the little scratch I gave him yesterday. Your Majesty, the crown prince is incompetent. He's the reason the northern barbarians took 3 provinces. Strip his title. A bunch of his boot-licking cronies immediately jumped in. Yes, we agree. Totally his fault, right? Because I, the powerless puppet prince who couldn't even leave his own palace without permission, am personally responsible for military defense. Makes perfect sense. Flawless logic. Someone give this man a medal. But here's the thing. I wanted to lose the crown prince title. That position was a death sentence. 16th birthday coming up, Uncle promised to hand over the throne, which means every single one of his sons needs me dead before that happens. So I did something nobody expected. I knelt down and said, "You're right. It is my fault. So let me fix it. Send me to the northern border." The entire court went silent. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear a FLEA drop. The barbarians took 3 provinces? Nobody wants to go fight them? Fine. I'll go. My father died up north. If I die there too, then father and son can be ghosts together. If I don't die, I'll take back every single province they stole. Old ministers were tearing up. The prime minister turned away so nobody would see him crying. The military commander was clenching his fists with shiny eyes. And Xiao Yu? Xiao Yu looked like he swallowed a lemon. He expected me to come in crying like the old Xiao Lai always did. Sobbing, begging, hugging daddy's spirit tablet like a teddy bear. That was the plan. Let me humiliate myself, then kick me while I'm down. Instead, I showed up offering to die for the country, and now he looks like the petty one. Beautiful. But this snake is smart. He recovered fast. Father, what a noble spirit. Truly worthy of our royal blood. But he can't go as a commoner. Let's make him the Northern Border Pacification Commissioner. I wanted to stab him right there. See what he did? He didn't give me troops. He didn't give me supplies. He gave me a title. A fancy, useless, empty title that means if anything goes wrong up north, it's officially my problem. No soldiers, no grain, just a name tag that says, "Blame this guy." Poisonous. Absolutely poisonous thinking. The emperor nodded. Strip Xiao Lai of the crown prince position. Keep his Prince Ning title. Appoint him Northern Border Pacification Commissioner. Go pacify things. Done. 7 years of being crown prince. Over in 5 minutes. On my way out, I caught up to Xiao Yu. "Hey, big brother." Satisfied with that explanation I promised, he turned around looking like he ate something rotten. "The Eastern Palace position, 1 step from the throne, I don't want it. It's yours." "Oh wait," I laughed. "It might not even go to you. There's 5 other brothers, right?" Ha ha. His face turned the color of a pig liver. Fist shaking. "You think you'll survive up north?" I didn't answer that. Just turned around and dropped one last line. "Whether I live or die is my business." But defending this nation was never supposed to be a question for the royal family. Our ancestors built this empire from nothing. It's not here for people to just take. Boom. Mic drop. Walk away. Don't look back. So by noon, I was rolling out of the capital in a busted cart. No guards. No escort. No fanfare. Just me, a driver, and Bai Su, who was trying to rebandage my chest wound while crying. "Your Highness, you really gave up the crown prince position. That position was never mine to begin with. We hadn't even been on the road for half an hour when a palace eunuch came galloping after us with an imperial decree." I unrolled it. Basically, the barbarians just took a 4th province. Northern border now down to 1 province out of 5. Go handle it. We're not sending troops. Good luck. Try hard. Bai Su went pale. "Your Highness, they're sending you to die." "Yep." I finished her sentence for her and shrugged. "Everyone thinks so. I climbed onto the horse and looked north. Baisu was panicking. Aren't you angry? I glanced back toward the capital one last time. Angry? The more desperate they are for me to die, the more terrified they are that I'll live. I cracked the whip. Open sea, free fish. Open sky, free bird. The northern border is where the real game begins. So here's the scoreboard after day 2. Lost the Crown Prince title. Gained a suicide mission. 0 soldiers, 0 supplies. 1 province left. Chest still bleeding. Riding a broken horse toward a frozen wasteland full of barbarian cavalry. Things are going great. Kangwoo City. The last province standing. My new kingdom. And it looked like absolute garbage. The city walls had more holes than a block of Swiss cheese. Half the battlements were crumbling. The gate tower's roof tiles were gone, showing burnt black wood underneath. One gate door was hanging sideways. The other was just lying on the ground with burn marks on it. The few military flags left on the walls were ripped in half, flapping in the wind like the city itself was waving a white flag. The people shuffling in and out? Empty eyes. Hunchbacks. 0 expression. Walking corpses with pulses. Behind me was my army. 50 guys from the capital garrison who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. Their flags were crooked, their formation was sloppy, and one of them was literally yawning. They looked at me like I was a prisoner being escorted to execution, not a prince arriving to take command. We entered the city. Streets lined with half-collapsed houses. Some had their doors ripped off and used for firewood. Old people sat against walls like statues. A kid sat on a doorstep holding a cracked bowl filled with something black that I couldn't even identify as food. Then I heard screaming. Not one person. Lots of people. Women shrieking. Children crying. Old people begging. Doors being kicked in. Things smashing. Up ahead, through clouds of dust, I saw them. About 130 soldiers. Our soldiers, in tattered military uniforms, kicking down doors, dragging out civilians, throwing grain sacks onto horses. An old man was clinging to a soldier's leg, crying that they were taking his family's last food. Got kicked to the ground. A young woman was being dragged out of her house by 2 of them, clothes half torn, screaming for help. Nobody helped. These weren't barbarian invaders. These were great Chuzone troops. Deserters turned bandits, robbing the very people they were supposed to protect. My escort captain sidled up to me, whispering, "Your Highness, let's back out of the city. We only have 50 men. These guys have gone crazy. We can't stop them." I got off my horse, drew my sword. The blade scraped against the frozen ground with a sound like ripping silk. Stop. Didn't yell. Didn't need to. The word cut through all the screaming and chaos like a knife through paper. Every head turned. What they saw, one teenager in white robes, holding a sword, standing alone in the middle of the street. Behind him, 50 guys who looked like they wanted to be somewhere else, under banners reading, Prince Ning of Great Chu, and Northern Border Pacification Commissioner. They stared for about 2 seconds. Then they laughed. Prince Ning? The turtle prince who got stripped of his title? Ha! Did he come to this death trap looking for glory? Their leader rode forward. Big guy, maybe 30, with a nasty scar running from his eyebrow all the way down to his jaw. He pointed his blade at my chest, barely a foot away from my clothes. 3 years I fought on this border. Never saw a single paycheck. You want me to wait for you to pay me? You? A waste of space. He grinned. Ugly grin. Missing teeth energy. But hey, you're still a prince. Hand over everything valuable you've got, and maybe I'll give you some face. Behind me, I heard one of my guards take a step back. The tiny clink of armor shifting. Yeah, real brave guys. Top-tier military discipline. I didn't move. Didn't even look at the blade pointed at my chest. Instead, I reached down to my belt and slowly unhooked my jade pendant. My father's jade pendant. 5 intertwined dragons carved from the finest jade, glowing softly even under this gray sky. Worth at least 3,000 to 5,000 silver taels. I held it up to the light, turning it casually. This was given to me by the late emperor himself. What do you think? 3,000 taels? 5,000. Scarface's eyes went wide. His guy's eyes went wider. They'd been robbing civilians all day and scored maybe 100 taels worth of grain and copper coins combined. This one pendant was more money than they'd see in 10 lifetimes. His blade dipped down. Couldn't help it. Greed is a powerful muscle relaxant. You're really giving that to me, I smiled. Real friendly. Real stupid looking. Like a rich kid who doesn't know the value of money. I'm new here. Don't know anyone. You've been on the border for years. Let's be friends. Consider this a welcome gift. His brain was doing math. Tiny little abacus beads going click, click, click behind those greedy eyes. This kid really is a waste. A prince trying to buy his way through? The late emperor's son, is this pathetic? He grinned. Yellow teeth. Hopped off his horse. Walked right up to me. Reached for the jade. Smart boy. He didn't finish that sentence. My sword moved. No fancy light effects. No dramatic wind. Just a simple upward slash across his throat. Fast. So fast his smile was still on his face when the blood came out. It sprayed like a red ribbon unfurling in the wind. He grabbed his throat. Made sounds like a chicken getting stepped on. Stumbled 2 steps. Dropped to his knees. Fell face first into the frozen dirt. Twitched a couple times. Stopped. Blood pooled under him, steaming in the cold air. The entire street went silent. Even the wind shut up. I squatted down. Took my jade pendant back from his dead hand. Wiped the blood off on his clothes. Nice and careful. Hung it back on my belt. Stood up. Looked at the remaining 100-something deserters. Anyone else want it? My voice wasn't loud, but my eyes were doing all the heavy lifting. I looked at every single one of those remaining deserters like I was picking out which coffin to order first. The leader is dead. The rest of you, I won't punish. I pulled out a paper I'd written up beforehand, a military merit land grant, and held it up in the wind. 2 choices. Option A, drop your weapons, follow me, and we take back all 5 northern provinces. Kill a barbarian? That's merit points. Stack enough points, and you get land. Your kids can go to school, take exams, become officials. Your family goes from gutter trash to gentry in 1 generation. I glanced at the still twitching corpse on the ground. Option B, keep doing what you're doing. I've got 50 men behind me and 3,000 border troops arriving any minute. That last part was a complete lie. There were no 3,000 troops. There were no 300 troops. I had 50 guys who were yawning 10 minutes ago. But these deserters didn't know that. A prince shows up to the border. Of course he'd bring reinforcements. That's just common sense. Common sense that happened to be totally wrong. But hey, they bought it. One guy dropped his weapon and knelt. Then another. Then another. Dominoes. Beautiful, beautiful dominoes. 100-something battle-hardened deserters, faces in the frozen dirt, all mumbling. We follow the prince's command, and then I turned around and my 50 escort guys were standing in perfect formation. Straight backs, tight ranks, not a single yawn. They dropped to one knee, fist to chest, armor clanging in perfect unison like a thunderclap. We follow the prince's command. This was the first time they'd given me a proper military salute. 10 minutes ago, they looked at me like a convict. Now they looked at me like a commander. Baisu was standing off to the side with her hand over her mouth, eyes watering. She told me later I looked exactly like my father. The late emperor used to stand in front of armies with that same straight spine, no matter how many enemies were ahead. That's when the doors started opening, one by one, creaking, squeaking, all down the street. The civilians who'd been hiding poked their heads out. They saw the dead bandit leader. They saw 100 soldiers kneeling. They saw a blood-stained teenager in white. An old man hobbled out on a walking stick, collapsed at my feet, and started sobbing. Your Highness, they stole all our grain. My son tried to stop them, and they broke his leg. I thought we were all going to die today. I tried to help him up. He wouldn't let go of my sleeve, crying like a child. And that broke the dam. People came flooding out from everywhere. Old folks, women, children, all kneeling along both sides of the street. Save us, Your Highness. The refugees from Yunzhou said the court abandoned us. We thought nobody was coming. I stood there looking at all these people on their knees, and for a second my lips moved, but nothing came out. I helped the old man up and shoved my last bag of dry rations into his arms. Everything's going to be okay. I'm here now. The North won't fall. Then this young guy jumped to his feet. Ragged clothes, bruised face, one arm in a sling from getting beaten by the deserters. Your Highness, name's Zhou Dazhuang. I'm from Yunzhou. When the barbarians broke through, I escaped, but my parents died in the city. I don't want land. I don't want pay. Just give me a knife and point me at the barbarians. Your arm isn't healed. I won't die from this. I've had worse. Take me. More young men stood up behind him. Me too. Take me. I can't fight, but I can cook and bandage wounds. Please. I looked at all of them. My eyes stung a little, but I absolutely did not cry. Princes don't cry. Especially not princes who just murdered a guy with a jade pendant trick. By Sue. Write down their names. She wiped her tears, nodded hard, and pulled out paper and a brush. Before the emotional moment could fully cook, some local officials showed up. Welcome, Prince Ning. The northern officials are waiting at the government hall. I told the deserters to return everything they stole, put it back exactly where they found it, and headed to the hall. The government office. Lit up. A dozen officials lined up on both sides. And here is where things got interesting. The military officers on the right, they stood up properly, bowed, gave me the formal greeting. Their eyes were cautious, sizing me up, but at least they showed respect. The civilian officials on the left, not a single one stood up. Not a bow, not even a nod. They looked at me like I was a tenant farmer coming to collect rent. Pure contempt. I sat down in the main chair and started my introduction. Gentlemen, I'm the new Northern Border Pacification Commissioner. Here to, Your Highness, cut OFF. Mid-sentence. By the head civilian official. This guy, Zhao Mingyuan, was about 50, skinny, long beard, fancy golden pheasant embroidered on his robe. Second-rank official. Provincial governor of the entire northern border. He didn't even turn to face me. Just tilted his head slightly and looked at me from the corner of his eye like I was a child who wandered into an adult meeting. Your Highness must be tired from the long journey. Why don't you rest for a few days? Get familiar with the area. He picked up his tea, blew on it slowly, took a tiny sip. As for official business, I'll handle everything. No need for Your Highness to worry. Dead silence. The other civilian officials exchanged little smirks. The military officers frowned, clenched fists, but said nothing. I almost laughed. This guy is a second-rank official. I'm a prince, a royal prince, imperial blood, and this bureaucrat is sitting in his chair, legs crossed, cutting me off mid-sentence, drinking tea in my face, and basically telling me to go sit in a corner and play quietly? This isn't arrogance. This is a death wish. You're Zhao Mingyuan? That's right. He finally turned toward me, but still didn't stand up. Has Your Highness heard of me? Never. But let me guess. You're the first prince's man. Every face in the room changed color. His smile froze for half a second, then came back smooth as butter. Your Highness jokes. I serve the Emperor. I know nothing about any prince's factions. Then he pulled out an account ledger and started reading numbers at me. Tax revenue, grain allocations, disaster relief spending, rattling it off like a professor lecturing a freshman. He closed the ledger, leaned back in his chair, crossed his legs, and looked at me like a grandpa looking at a kid who doesn't understand the world yet. Your Highness, I've been in government for 30 years. I've seen every kind of prince. Some come to pad their resume. Some come because they got in trouble back home and need somewhere to hide for a year. When it blows over, they leave. He picked up his tea again, blew on it, took a loud slurp, right in my face. Slurp. So tell me, Your Highness, which kind are you? The hall was so tense you could snap the air like a cracker. General Shin Chongyuan. The northern military commander, 40-something, face weathered like a leather boot, personally promoted by my late father, was about to explode at this tea-sipping bureaucrat. I could see his fist shaking. I stopped him with a hand wave. Didn't need backup for this one. You done? I asked Zhao Mingyuan. He blinked. Good. My turn. I pulled out the imperial decree and set it on the table real gentle. Like placing a bomb. You recognize this? His face twitched. He finally stood up, but barely. Just a tiny little bow. Minimum effort. That's the Emperor's decree. Know what it says? It says I have full authority over military and civilian affairs in the North. You just told me, in front of everyone, that the North has no grain. You're the provincial governor. If there's no grain, that's your failure. Or, I leaned in close. Are you trying to undermine morale and incite rebellion? Then I unhooked my father's sword from my belt. This decree plus this sword. Is that enough to take your head off? His face went white, like someone pulled a plug and drained all the blood out. I walked right up to him, looking down. You asked me what kind of prince I am. I bent forward until my face was inches from his. I'm the kind you can't afford to mess with. His knees buckled. Thud. On the floor. Shaking like a washing machine. Your Highness, forgive me. I misspoke. I had eyes but couldn't see Mount Tai. Please spare me. Where's the swagger now, old man? Where's the tea sipping? Where's the leg crossing? Where's the, don't trouble yourself, Your Highness? Gone. Just an old man face down on the floor looking like a deflated balloon. Get up. I'm not here to punish you. I only want one thing. How much grain can you get me in 3 days? He scrambled up, sweat dripping off his nose like a leaky faucet. 3,000 sure of grain. That's the most I can do. 3,000 sure. I looked at him for a long beat, then nodded. Enough. He backed off to his seat, wiping his forehead. But the second he looked down, I caught it. A flash of venom in his eyes. Quick. Subtle. Like a snake flicking its tongue. I saw it. Filed it away. Said nothing. Then I turned to the military side. General Shun. How many troops do you have? He stood up, fist to palm. On paper, 12,000. In reality, he gritted his teeth. Less than 6,000. Most are old or weak. Combat-ready soldiers? About 2,000. Why such a massive gap in numbers? He didn't answer. Just looked at Zhao Mingyuan. I understood immediately. Ghost soldiers. Phantom payrolls. Grain siphoned off. Weapons sold on the black market. This corruption goes deep. We'll deal with the troop numbers later. Grain first. After the meeting, I figured Zhao Mingyuan would just be passively annoying. Nope. This old fox went active sabotage within hours. I sent guards to buy grain from the biggest merchant in the north, Yongfeng Trading. Answer. No grain available. Second merchant. Same answer. Third. Same. Every single grain dealer in the region suddenly had zero inventory. What a coincidence. My guards came back to report while I was studying the Northern Territory map. I put the map down and laughed. Zhao Mingyuan works fast. Obviously he'd sent word ahead. Bow and scrape to my face, stab me in the kidneys from behind. Classic bureaucrat warfare. Veteran move. Baisu was furious. Your Highness, just raid their warehouses. Can't. I just got here. Start kicking doors down on day one, and every merchant and official in the north turns against me permanently. I asked about the biggest grain merchant. Name. Qian Wanli. His son was married to Zhao Mingyuan's daughter. In-laws. Of course. Send Qian Wanli an invitation card. Say Prince Ning requests the pleasure of his company at dinner. Card went out. Qian Wanli accepted. Tonight. I was getting dressed for dinner when the ground started shaking. Not an earthquake. Hoofbeats. Hundreds of them. Barbarians. At the gates. On day one, I grabbed my sword and ran. Baisu was screaming behind me. Your Highness, you forgot your armor. Up on the wall, General Shun was already there, face dark as a thundercloud. Your Highness, Northern Barbarian Vanguard. I leaned over the battlement and looked down. 500 cavalry spread across the plain. Dust everywhere. Horses screaming. A complete circus of an army. Some wearing stolen Chu military armor, still with arrow holes in it. Some in fur coats, some shirtless. They weren't in any proper formation, just spread out like a wolf pack circling wounded prey. Some were doing tricks on horseback. Some were shooting arrows at the walls for fun. Some were yelling insults in broken Chinese. Chu cowards. Come out and die. Turtle soldiers. This city? I'll flatten it by lunch. One of their leaders rode right up to the moat, reared his horse dramatically, and made a throat-cutting gesture at us. Are you kidding me? Our border army let these clowns get this cocky? General Shun was grinding his teeth to powder. Your Highness, let me take my 200 elite guards out there. We'll defend the city to the death. And that's exactly what they want. I cut him off, scanning the field below. They're light cavalry. Open plains. You ride out with 200 men, and they'll eat you alive. Flat ground is their playground. Then I noticed something and smiled. General Shun, look at what they're wearing. He squinted. His eyes went wide. Their armor was trash. Missing shoulder guards. No chest plates. Half of them were wearing equipment stripped from our dead soldiers. You could still see the sword cuts and arrow holes. They looted it from the 4 provinces they took. They stripped our fallen brothers. I nodded. And what are they most afraid of? Infantry pike formations, Shun answered without hesitation. Light cavalry can't charge through a disciplined infantry line. Archers suppress, pikemen hold the front, and they die by the dozen. Then why are they so arrogant? His face went red. He jerked his thumb at the terrified garrison troops shaking on the walls behind us. Because of them. 1 soldier runs, and 10 follow. 10 run, and 100 follow. Our formations collapse before the barbarians even charge. They don't need to do anything. We defeat ourselves. I grin like a fox who just found the henhouse key. General Shun. Deserters have their uses too. He stared at me. Your Highness, what do you mean? I didn't explain. Just looked at the trembling garrison, then at Shun's 200 real fighters, then at my 50 escort guards standing at the base of the wall. Some gripping their sword handles with white knuckles, some pale-faced, but not one stepping back. You guys scared? Silence. Good. Being scared is normal. I smiled. Come on. I've got a job for you. I guarantee you won't be scared after this. The barbarians pranced around outside for half an hour. We didn't fire a single arrow. They got bored. Their leader pointed his sword, and a dozen riders charged the gate. Hacking, ramming, throwing ropes. The gate was barely closed, just pushed shut, not barred. Boom. It swung open. A few garrison soldiers at the gate dropped their weapons and ran screaming into the city. The barbarians roared with laughter. The Chu cowards are running. Charge. Grab the grain. Grab the women. 500 cavalry poured through the gates like a flood, thundering down the main street, hooves smashing ice between the cobblestones. Doors and windows slammed shut on both sides. Not a soul in sight. The lead riders were already howling with excitement. Same as the last 4 cities. Chu soldiers always run. Easy pickings. I was putting on my armor behind a window, peeking through the crack at the gate, and I couldn't help but grin. Man, those deserters are natural actors. Method acting at its finest. Not a single fake note in that performance. Boom. The second those barbarian riders poured into the main street, my boys on the rooftops dumped boiling oil right on the gate entrance. Then massive boulders came crashing down from both sides of the wall, sealing the gate shut behind them. 500 cavalry just rode into a blender, and someone locked the door. The ones in front slammed on the brakes. The ones behind had no idea what was happening and kept pushing forward. Horses crashing into horses, riders flying off saddles, guys getting trampled by their own friends. 500 horsemen crammed into a narrow city street with nowhere to go. That's when the arrows started. From the rooftops, from the windows, from behind doors. My 50 escort guys and the reformed deserters raining death from every angle. Shooting fish in a barrel doesn't even begin to describe it. These guys were sardines in a can getting stabbed with toothpicks. It's a trap. Retreat. Retria. Too late, buddy. Look what's at the end of the street. Me. Gold armor. Long spear. Standing dead center in the road. Behind me, General Shin's 200 elite guards in perfect formation. Shields in front. Pikes behind the shields. Crossbows behind the pikes. A wall of iron and pointy things that absolutely nothing on 4 legs is getting through. Soldiers of great CHU. With me. Kill. 50 voices roared as one. The pike wall advanced, every step in sync. Armor clanking in rhythm like a war drum made of metal. A moving fortress grinding forward. The barbarians were stuck. Pike wall ahead. Boulder wall and burning wall behind. Arrows from both sides. Their horses couldn't turn in the narrow street. Their archers couldn't draw their bows in the crowd. Their swords couldn't reach past the pikes. They just died, one by one, speared off horses, shot through throats, smashed down by shields. And I was at the front, spear soaked red, blood splattered on my armor, on my face, in my hair. Didn't blink, didn't flinch, just thrust, pull, step, thrust, pull, step. No fancy moves, just fast, accurate, and mean. Every stab took a barbarian with it. Half an hour later, the screaming stopped. The street looked like a slaughterhouse had a baby with a junkyard. Bodies everywhere. Dead horses. Blood running between the cobblestones like tiny red rivers. The last few barbarians got pinned at the sealed gate and turned into pincushions. 500 riders. 0 survivors. I stood in the middle of the corpse pile, leaning on my spear, breathing like I'd just run a marathon while carrying a refrigerator. My left arm had a gash where a blade got through a gap in my armor. Blood dripping off my wrist. This armor is so heavy. This spear is so heavy. Everything is heavy. My eyelids are heavy. But my soldiers? They were alive. Sitting on the ground, covered in blood, grinning like idiots. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Some ripped their helmets off and screamed at the sky. These were the same guys who used to run at the first sight of barbarian cavalry. The same garrison troops who couldn't hold a line. The same deserters who were robbing civilians yesterday. And now they were looking at me, a 16-year-old kid drenched in blood, like I was the second coming of the war god himself. General Shun ran down from the wall, dropped to one knee, fist to chest, eyes red. Your Highness, truly the late Emperor's son, he looked up at me. Your father. He used to lead us just like this. I didn't respond to that because I was looking north, and my smile died on my face. On the horizon, a black line, getting wider, getting closer. An army, the barbarian main force. Dense, endless, like a black tide rolling toward us across the plain. General Shun's face went chalk white. At least 50,000. I was silent for exactly 3 seconds. Drag every single barbarian corpse outside the city. All of them, all. Stack them on both sides of the gate. Then get me a big stone slab. 1 hour later, 500 barbarian corpses stacked neatly along both sides of the north gate, like the world's most horrifying welcome mat. Blood still wet, gleaming dark red in the sunlight. And in front of the gate, a brand new stone monument, tall as a man. 8 characters written in barbarian blood. Invade Great Chu and die. I personally climbed to the highest point on the wall and planted a Chu military flag. The wind caught it, and it snapped open, cracking in the air like a slap to the face. The barbarian main army stopped. Their commanders rode forward, looked at 500 of their own men stacked like firewood, looked at the flag, looked at the blood-soaked teenager standing on the wall with a few hundred exhausted but fired-up soldiers behind him. Should we attack? One of them asked their general. Long silence. Retreat. What? Retreat. Chu reinforcements must have arrived. There's no way 500 elite riders get slaughtered like sheep otherwise. 50,000 troops backed up 10 miles and made camp. I stood on the wall watching them go, and my sword hand slowly dropped. My shoulders were shaking, not fear, just pure exhaustion. Every muscle screaming. Baisu came running up, crying, wrapping bandages around me. Your Highness, you scared me to death. I looked at the sea of enemy campfires stretching across the plain. They're only scared for now. They'll figure it out soon. That evening, Government Hall, dinner meeting. Qian Wanli, the big grain merchant, was already there with his tea and his businessman smile. Zhao Mingyuan had also showed up, the shameless old snake, wanted to watch me fail. The door opened. I walked in, still wearing the armor, still covered in dried blood. Gash on my left arm wrapped in a bloody rag. Splatter marks on my face that I didn't bother cleaning. Armor cracked and dented, plates hanging crooked. I sat down, and the armor went clank. Qian Wanli nearly dropped his teacup. Zhao Mingyuan's smile froze like it got hit with liquid nitrogen. No small talk. I slid my trade proposal across the table. 500 barbarian cavalry attacked today. I killed them all. Bodies are stacked outside the gate. 50,000 more are camped 10 miles north. They were too scared to attack. Casual voice. Like I was discussing the weather. They'll come back. Before they do, I need grain, armor, and soldiers. I pushed the paper closer to Qian Wanli. Here's the deal. You give me grain, I give you priority access to northern border trade. Half-price tariffs. Government procurement contracts. First entry to the trade markets. I stared straight into his eyes. You can gamble. Bet I die and your grain is wasted. Then you either flee the north with nothing, or stay and let the barbarians eat you alive. Or you bet I survive, and your business becomes the #1 trading house in the entire northern frontier. He looked at the proposal, looked at the blood on my armor, thought for a very, very long time. Then he picked up his wine cup and drained it in one shot. Your Highness, 10,000 sure of grain. Delivered to the military camp within 3 days. I nodded, picked up my own cup, drank. You won't regret this. Stood up, armor clanking, walked to the door, stopped without turning around. Oh, Governor Zhao, tomorrow morning, I want the complete grain storage ledgers for all 5 northern provinces. Every single page. Zhao Mingyuan melted into his chair like a candle in a furnace. He wanted to argue, but the killing intent coming off me was pressing him into his seat like gravity had tripled. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what military authority feels like. I walked out into the night air. It smelled like blood and burnt things. Across the dark plain, the barbarian camp glowed like a monster crouching in the shadows. Baisu tiptoed up behind me. Your Highness, 50,000 soldiers. Can we hold? I looked at the horizon. We'll see. Day 1 scorecard. Annihilated 500 elite cavalry, bluffed 50,000 troops into retreating, secured 10,000 sure of grain from a merchant who refused to sell to me this morning, made the corrupt governor soil his pants twice, and I still haven't changed out of my bloody armor because honestly, it's working really well as a negotiation tool. One night. That's all the peace I got. One night. Dawn hit, and the barbarian horns started blowing. 5,000 cavalry charging straight at us as a test attack. My defenders were shaking. One kid named Air Go literally wet his pants. A veteran who'd lost 20 battles in a row was mumbling prayers, and Baisu was holding onto a pillar because her legs stopped working. But here's what those barbarians didn't know. I spent all night making the entire city, soldiers, civilians, even a 60-year-old blacksmith and his 20 apprentices, dig holes in the frozen ground outside the walls and plant ice spikes under the snow. 5,000 horses hit that field at full gallop, and it was like watching a bowling ball hit the pins. Crack, crack, crack. Horses snapping legs, riders flying through the air, bodies piling up everywhere. The ice spike trap worked perfectly. Old Joe the blacksmith saw it from the wall and lost it. Started screaming, "It's the prince. He made us do this." Our ice spikes worked. With his frostbitten, bleeding hands in the air, crying his eyes out. Then the whole city started chanting, "Long live the prince," so loud it drowned out the screams of dying barbarians. Pretty metal, honestly. Baisu, bless her terrified little heart, remembered her job. She wiped her tears, grabbed the war drum mallet, and started hammering. That was my signal. I kicked the gates open and led 500 cavalry out into the chaos. The barbarian riders were on the ground without horses, stumbling through snow, broken legs everywhere. We hit them like a freight train. Spears, shields, swords, axes, full buffet of violence. Half an hour. 5,000 attackers lost half their men. The survivors ran back to camp crying. And we captured 800 enemy war horses. Free horses, just wandering around the battlefield looking confused. Ergo, the kid who wet himself, actually killed a barbarian. Shot one in the back with an arrow while the guy was trying to crawl away. His hands were still shaking, but his eyes were glowing. The old veteran who hadn't won a single battle in 5 years was squatting on the wall, sobbing. First victory. Ever. I barely made it back to the wall, covered in blood again, lungs burning, when the horns sounded again. Deeper. Louder. More of them. Not 5,000 this time. All of them. 50,000. The entire army. Coming at us at once. The cheering lasted about 30 seconds before 50,000 barbarians came over the hill, on foot this time. Shields up, siege ladders ready, stretching across the entire horizon like a human ocean. Every smile on that wall died instantly. Ergo started crying again. The veteran's hands went right back to shaking. Baisu's legs gave out, and she was holding a pillar for dear life. But everyone kept looking at me. Standing there in my blood-crusted gold armor with a reopened arm wound, dripping red. And somehow, the fact that I wasn't panicking made them stop panicking. The logic was basically, this 16-year-old psychopath hasn't lost yet, so maybe we won't die today? Questionable reasoning. But I'll take it. I had the civilians prop up their own front doors as makeshift arrow shields along the wall. I armed the prisoners, death row inmates with nothing to lose. One big, ugly convict at the front was licking his lips going, "Kill one, and I break even. Kill two, and I'm in profit." Love that energy. Then 50,000 men charged. What followed was the longest day of my life. Arrows flew both directions like angry swarms of bees. Their arrows hit our door panel shields. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Sounded like a hailstorm on a tin roof. Our arrows hit their front ranks, and they just climbed over their own dead and kept coming. Siege ladders hit the walls. Barbarians started pouring over the top. The death row convict chopped the first guy's head half off, wiped the blood spray off his face, and grinned. Terrifying man. I love him. The old veteran speared one climber, but a second one got over and slashed his shoulder. The old man didn't fall. He grabbed the barbarian and threw both of them off the wall. I heard bones crack from up top. He didn't come back. Ergo saw it happen. His eyes went red, but he didn't cry this time. He jammed his spear through the next climber's throat. Hands still shaking. Didn't matter. The kill was clean. A half-grown kid was rolling logs off the wall onto siege ladders, knocking barbarians down like bowling pins. He was laughing about it until a stray arrow punched through his arm. He dropped to his knees, bit the arrowhead out, and went back to rolling logs. 14 years old maybe. Absolute unit. Old Joe the blacksmith was running ammunition up to the wall. Arrows, logs, rocks, sprinting faster than guys half his age, screaming at his apprentices. Move it. The prince is fighting up there, and you're back here walking. And me? I stood at the highest point of the wall the entire time. My armor turned dark red. Couldn't tell whose blood it was anymore. New cut on my left arm. Arrow grazed my right leg. A rock hit my shoulder, and it swelled up like a grapefruit. But I didn't step down. Couldn't. I was the flag. If the flag falls, everyone runs. So the flag stays. 6 attacks. Dawn to dusk. 6 waves. All pushed back. The base of the wall looked like a nightmare. Bodies stacked into hills. Ours mixed with theirs. Blood soaking through snow until the entire ground turned dark red. The air smelled like iron, smoke, sweat, and something else I don't want to name. When it finally stopped, I slumped against the wall, and Baisu was crying and bandaging me, and I didn't even have the strength to push her away. Every joint hurt. Every muscle screamed. My armor was cracked in multiple places. But I was smiling. Exhausted, beat up, barely conscious smiling. We held. Again. Ergo sat on the ground hugging his spear, grinning like an idiot. The convict was leaning against the wall, chewing jerky. He looted off a dead barbarian. The kid with the arrow wound was waving his stick at the enemy camp screaming, "Come back. I'm not scared of you," which got a weak laugh from everyone. I was about to order the gates open to grab more horses when horn sounds from the barbarian camp, but different horns, coming from multiple directions, echoing across the entire steppe. General Shun went white as paper. That's the tribal assembly horn. They're calling in every raiding party scattered across the other 4 provinces. The smiles died. Ergo's spear clattered to the ground. The convict's jerky fell off his lip. The brave kid slowly lowered his stick. The 5,000-man vanguard was appetizer. Today's 50,000 was the main course. And now they're calling in dessert. Every last barbarian pillaging the other 4 provinces. Their numbers would go from 50,000 to 80, 100,000, maybe more. Our defenders? Counting the wounded? Under 2,000. Baisu looked at me with red eyes. Your Highness, can we still hold? Great question. Would love to know the answer myself. I couldn't answer Baisu's question because the wind was too convenient of an excuse. That night, I stood on the wall watching the horizon turn into a Christmas tree of doom. Torches. Hundreds. Thousands. Pouring in from every direction like wolves smelling blood. The scattered raiding parties from all 4 fallen provinces were answering the call. 10,000 became 50,000 became. A lot more than that. And we had under 2,000. But here's the weird thing. Nobody ran. Not a single person. These same guys who used to flee at the sight of barbarians were standing on a freezing wall, gripping weapons made of whatever they could find. Swords, spears, wooden sticks, hammers, rocks, and nobody moved. I stood up in my blood-crusted armor and said what needed saying. Tomorrow they're bringing even more. I swear on my life. As long as I'm breathing, I'm not leaving this city. Fight to the death. Ergo screamed it back first, voice cracking. Then the convict howled it. Then old Joe croaked it out like a broken gong. Then everyone. 2,000 voices hitting the night air so hard the torches outside flickered. Couldn't sleep. Obviously. I leaned against the wall running calculations in my head, while Baisu changed my bandages for the 100th time. General Shun came over asking me to rest. Rest? With what? Instead I told him something important. They're not afraid of our walls. They're afraid of time. 100,000 men eating through supplies in frozen territory with no grass for their horses? They're bleeding resources every hour they sit out there. Tomorrow won't be a probe. It'll be all or nothing. So we do the only thing we can, outlast them. 5-man rotations. Save every drop of energy for when it counts. Dawn. The horns blew. Different sound this time. Short, rapid, angry. Total assault. The entire horizon turned black with soldiers. Shields in front, ladders behind, archers on the flanks. 100,000 men stepping in sync, shaking the ground so hard the wall vibrated under our feet. Ergo gripped his spear. The old veteran who'd thrown himself off the wall yesterday was dead. Ergo was the veteran now, a former deserter from a city that fell. But today? Today he wasn't running. Fire, arrows poured down. Shields blocked most, but enough got through. Didn't matter. They climbed over their own dead and kept coming. Ladders hit the walls. Dozens of them. Barbarians swarming up like ants. Logs, boulders, boiling oil crashed down. Bodies fell like rain. But more kept climbing, eyes bloodshot, screaming like animals. I grabbed a spear and started stabbing anyone who poked their head over the wall. Blood sprayed in my face. Didn't wipe it. Just pulled out and stabbed the next one. Ergo's spear broke. He picked up a sword. It got stuck in a guy's ribcage. He kicked the body away, grabbed the dead barbarian's own curved blade, and kept going. Character development complete. The death row convict was holding 3 ladders by himself. 3 knives stuck in his body, blood everywhere, and he was laughing, just swinging at everything that moved like a caged animal who finally tasted freedom. Old Joe ran ammunition up the walls, arrows, logs, rocks, legs shaking, lungs wheezing, but never stopping, screaming at his apprentices. "The prince is fighting up there, and you're back here walking? Move." Baisu's voice was completely gone, but she kept relaying my orders in a hoarse whisper scream. She was my eyes and ears on the other sections of the wall. Morning to noon. For massive waves. All pushed back. Bodies piled half a man's height at the base of the wall. The snow turned permanently red. I had a new gash on my left arm. A rock had smashed my right shoulder so bad I could barely lift it, and every inch of my armor was painted in blood. But I was standing, at the highest point, in plain sight, because I wasn't just a commander anymore. I was the flag, and if the flag drops, everyone breaks. This battle had stopped being about tactics or numbers. It was pure willpower now. 2 sides staring each other down, asking the same question: who breaks first? Just past noon, the barbarians pulled their nastiest trick yet. They sent civilians at us. Our own people, old folks, women, children, tied together with rope, stumbling toward the walls with barbarians' swords at their backs. Anyone who fell got chopped. Anyone who ran got an arrow in the spine. Ergo dropped his weapon. That's the old lady from Yuzhou. She gave me water when I was stationed there. Every soldier on the wall froze. Shoot. Those are our people. Don't shoot. The barbarians used them as human shields to reach the gate. Everyone looked at me. Great. Love being the guy who has to solve impossible moral dilemmas while bleeding from 6 different wounds. Archers, aim behind the civilians. Target the escort soldiers only. Nobody shoots a civilian without my order. Then I had the loudest guys on the wall start screaming at the top of their lungs. Lie down. Get on the ground. The prince will protect you. Lie down. And bless those terrified people. They listened. An old grandma grabbed her grandson and hit the dirt. Then everyone behind her went down like dominoes. The barbarian escorts panicked and raised their swords to start killing the ones lying down. Fire. Arrows turned those sword raisers into pincushions before they could swing. Without the human shield, the attack force behind them was naked to our archers. The barbarian commander wasn't stupid, though. He ordered his men to stab anyone who stayed down, forcing them back up. Time for Plan B. I needed to buy time for something else anyway. So I grabbed a white cloth, smeared some blood on it, wrote a message, and had it shot to the barbarian commander on an arrow. "Hey, can we talk?" He stopped the attack. Curious, I started the most ridiculous negotiation of my life. Told him his supply lines were stretched, winter was killing his men, and if he couldn't take this city in 2 weeks the river would thaw and Chu reinforcements would arrive. Offered him a trade deal if he retreated. He almost bought it. Almost. Then his brain caught up. Wait, you're barely holding on with 1 city and you're offering me peace terms? Your own soldiers would never accept that. You're stalling, I grinned. Not bad. You've got a brain. Yeah, I was stalling. Because while I was up here doing my stand-up comedy routine, General Shun was leading 300 cavalry. Out the east gate, across the frozen river, horses' legs wrapped in cloth to muffle the sound, sneaking around to the barbarian army's unprotected right flank. The commander lost patience. Attack. Force the civilians up. Kill anyone who stays down. Soldiers started jabbing civilians with spear tips. Screaming everywhere. I made my move. Tell the civilians to run. Run to the gates. We'll let you in. The old grandma stood up first. Grabbed her grandson. Ran. Then everyone ran. Thousands of civilians stampeding toward our gates, while barbarians chased them from behind. Archers. Arc fire. Over the civilians. Hit the chasers. Arrows flew in high curves over the running civilians and rained down on the barbarians behind them. Gaps ripped open in their formation. That's when I waved the flag. General Shin saw it. 300 cavalry exploded from the riverside into the barbarian right flank. They're archers, completely unprepared. Shin's blade took the first head clean off. His men tore through like a hot knife through butter. The gates opened. Civilians flooded in. But I didn't let them just run past. I stopped them. Had soldiers throw piles of weapons on the ground. Want to live? Pick up a blade and kill the ones who did this to you, an old man asked. But we don't know how to fight. Then you die? These animals murdered your families, violated your sisters, burned your homes. You're just going to stand there? Then I charged out on horseback before they could answer. The old man's eyes went red. He picked up a sword, turned around. The prince is right. I'm 60, lived long enough. Today I'm taking one of them with me. Then a second person grabbed a weapon. Then 100. The grandma shoved her grandson against the wall, said, "Close your eyes. Grandma will be right back." Picked up a knife and walked outside. Three-sided attack. Me hitting from the front with cavalry. Shin smashing the right flank. Armed civilians swarming the escort troops from below. The barbarian formation shattered. The grandma stabbed a barbarian in the gut. "This one's for my daughter-in-law." Pulled the knife out. Stabbed again. "This one's for my son." Less than 10 minutes. 2,000 barbarians dead. Our losses? Under 300. I was standing in the corpse pile breathing like a broken engine when I noticed something very bad. The barbarian commander was standing on a hill, watching, smiling, because I'd just done exactly what he wanted. My troops were outside the walls. The gate was wide open, and behind him, 30,000 fresh cavalry. Rested, fed, ready. The reserves he'd been saving this entire time. Charge. Take the gate while it's open. Take the city. 30,000 horses hit the ground at once. Baisu screamed from the wall, "Your Highness, cavalry!" I spun around. A black tidal wave of horsemen crashing toward us at full speed. My people were scattered outside. Civilians, infantry, exhausted cavalry. The gate was open and we were on the wrong side of it. 2 legs can't outrun 4 legs. Everyone back inside. Now, people turned and ran. But the thunder was getting closer. 1,500 steps. 1,000. 800. 500. I played myself. I played myself. The barbarian cavalry was closing in, and my people were still outside the walls. 2 legs versus 4 legs. Math wasn't on our side. Then I saw the old grandma. She couldn't run anymore. Her grandson was pulling her hand, crying, "Run, Grandma." She was pushing him away, telling him to go without her. Behind them, 30,000 horses with very sharp swords on top. And I made what might be the dumbest decision of my entire life. Both lives, actually. I turned my horse around. Toward the enemy. Citizens of Chu are behind US. Northerners, with me. Fight to the death. 400 cavalry followed without a second of hesitation. We charged straight into 30,000 men like a toothpick attacking a whale. I crashed into their formation. Spear through the first guy's chest. Blood in my face. My left arm was completely done, couldn't lift it anymore. So I jammed the spear into the saddle hook and fought one-handed. My imperial armor was the only reason I was still breathing. Royal craftsmanship, baby. Barbarian swords kept bouncing off while their garbage-looted gear crumpled like paper against my spear. But there were just too many. Every hit I blocked. 3 more came from different angles. My horse took a blade to the neck and dropped. I rolled off, barely caught myself on my spear. Guys were falling around me left and right. 400 cavalry cut to less than 200. Then 100. Then a couple dozen. Surrounded. Completely surrounded. My spear snapped against a charging horse. The impact sent me flying. I was shaking everywhere. Arms, legs, everything. Vision going blurry. Heartbeat slowing down. Blood loss catching up. A barbarian ran up grinning and slammed his sword into my chest plate. The armor shattered. Something warm rushed up my throat. I swallowed it back down. Rolled sideways. Drew my father's sword. Looked at the wall of ugly faces around me and just laughed. Come on then. I'm Xiao Lai, Prince Ning of Great Chu. My head is right here. Come get it. Charged the nearest guy. Cut his horse's legs off. Got slashed across the back. Went down face first. Couldn't get up this time. Body was done. But my brain was still screaming one word. Kill. The barbarians actually hesitated. A dozen grown warriors staring at a half-dead 16-year-old still swinging a sword on the ground, and they were scared to approach. If every Chu soldier fought like this. Your Highness, get on. General Shun crashed through with his remaining men. Maybe 30 guys left. But those 30 fought like 300 and punched a hole through to me. Shin jumped off his horse, shoved my useless body onto the saddle, and started dragging us toward the gate on foot. His elite guards, every last one, formed a human wall around me, absorbing sword strikes with their bodies. One by one, they fell. The last guard dropped right when we were almost at the gate. That's when Zhao Shirtu, the death row convict, lost his mind. "Mom, your son is sorry. Can't carry on the family line." He jumped off the 30-foot wall, straight down into the barbarian cavalry below. His legs snapped on impact. You could hear the bones break. But he bit through the pain, dragged himself on broken legs toward me, and started hacking at barbarians like a possessed demon. Behind him, a dozen other prisoners jumped too. Some broke arms. Some broke ribs. One died on impact. The ones who lived got up and charged. "Come on, you barbarian dogs. Grandpa Zhao is here." Zhao Shirtu reached me. A sword came down aimed at my back. He blocked it with his shoulder. The blade cut into bone. I heard it crack. He screamed, then stabbed that barbarian in the gut with his other hand. He turned around, face covered in blood, and smiled at me. "Get inside, Your Highness. Forget about us." I tried to grab him, tried to pull him onto the horse. My chest screamed, my arms wouldn't work. I couldn't even grip. "Come with me. Just protect the north." He wrapped himself around a barbarian's legs and wouldn't let go. They stabbed him in the back. He held on, slashed his neck, blood spraying everywhere, his eyes going glassy, still holding on. Shin screamed at me to go and smacked the horse. I rode toward the gate, staring backward at the bodies piling up behind me. I wanted to go back. I wanted to jump off the horse and fight, but my body had absolutely nothing left. I couldn't even sit up straight. Then old Zhou at the gate saw everything and did something that broke me. He turned around, spread his arms, and screamed at the fleeing civilians. "Stop running. Look, open your eyes and look. My family has been in this city for 4 generations. You think those barbarians are getting through me?" He picked up a sword. 60-year-old blacksmith. Bleeding hands. Shaking legs. "You cowards can't even protect your own ancestors' graves?" The old man from before stepped up next to him. "You're right, brother. If we run today, we can't face our ancestors." Then a second person. A 10th. A 100th. The grandma pushed her crying grandson against the wall. "Don't cry. You're a man of the north," picked up a blade, and walked outside. Old Zhou pointed his sword at the enemy. Kill. And hundreds of civilians. No armor, no shields, no training, no formation, nothing. Charged out of the city gate toward 30,000 barbarian cavalry. I was slumped on a horse, barely conscious, watching the people I was supposed to protect running past me to save my life. I came here expecting to die alone. Turns out dying alone isn't an option when people decide you're worth dying for. General Shun got me back to the gate. 3 arrows in his body, shoulder, back, and one that went clean through his elbow, shattering the bone. I could hear it crack. He was carrying me with one working arm while his left dangled like a wet noodle. When I asked if he was okay, he said, "Your father pulled me out of a battle the same way. This man is insane and I love him." We crashed through the gate. Shin collapsed. His arm was bent in a direction arms are not supposed to bend. Bone sticking through skin. Bai Su screamed. But outside, old Zhou and the civilians were still fighting. Hundreds of unarmed people throwing themselves at barbarian cavalry with kitchen knives and stolen swords. Buying us seconds. Seconds. That's all they needed to give us. I screamed for them to come back. But Shun grabbed me with his one good arm. "Close the gate. If you don't, they ride in and everyone dies. The city falls. The last piece of northern territory, gone. Mercy doesn't command armies." He was right. I knew he was right. And I hated it. I gave the order on my knees, literally kneeling in front of the gate as it slammed shut. Through the wood I could hear everything. Old Joe scream when they cut off his arm. His last words, "Prince, avenge us." The sounds of people falling one after another. They held the barbarians long enough. The gate closed. I knelt there with my forehead against the cold iron, tears running down my face, listening to people die because of my decision. Bai Su held me, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. We saved the city. Nobody celebrated. There was nothing to celebrate. The ground outside was covered in bodies, soldiers, civilians, old people, children, ours and theirs, all mixed together in the mud. I picked up old Joe's hammer from the ground. Still warm, still bloody. stood up, faced everyone on the wall. This city is our land. Your home. The last root of the northern 5 provinces. My voice cracked, but I didn't cry. I swear, as long as I'm alive, I will take back the north. Every barbarian will pay. Ergo shouted. We believe you, your highness. Long live the prince. And oh, I cut him off. I don't deserve that. The people are the brave ones. Long live the people of the north. Dead silence. Nobody had ever heard a prince say that. Connecting, common people, and long live in the same sentence was something you could get executed for even thinking. But I screamed it again. Long live the people, and the entire city screamed it back. I stood on the wall staring at the barbarian camp, and I felt different. Not the cocky kid who walked in 2 days ago. Something harder, colder. I'd won the battle but lost too many people, and the only way to stop losing people was to get strong enough that nobody could threaten us ever again. Then a horn, but not a barbarian horn. Different, wilder, louder. Behind the barbarian camp, the sky turned orange. Their supply depot was on fire. Their entire rear was burning. Barbarian soldiers were spinning around in panic. The grain is burning. Cavalry attack from behind, and through the firelight, I saw them. A cavalry force smashing through the barbarian rear line like a battering ram. Black banners with a silver wolf and eagle. General Shun, broken arm, 3 arrows still in him, looked at that flag and started crying. That's the Grey Wolf banner. That's the Grey Wolf Riders. They were your father's personal cavalry. What? 9 years ago, your father conquered a steppe tribe called the Grey Wolves. Their chief, Yalu Xiong, was given the imperial surname Shao. After your father died, they vanished. Everyone assumed they deserted or were disbanded. He pointed at the black flag with tears streaming down his face. They didn't desert. They're still here, 3,000 riders. Led by a mountain of a man in silver armor on a black warhorse, cutting through the barbarian army like it was made of paper. He rode up to the wall, planted his lance in the ground, got off his horse, knelt, fist to chest. General Shao Xiong. Under the late emperor's final orders, 3,000 Grey Wolf riders, reporting for duty. His voice boomed like a bell. Forgive us for arriving late, young master. I stood there holding old Zhou's bloody hammer, eyes stinging. Took a breath. General Shao, rise. Open the gates. I lifted the hammer high and faced what was left of my battered, bleeding, exhausted, magnificent defenders. Reinforcements are here. The barbarians are in chaos. With me. One last time. Kill. The wall erupted. Kill. 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 The barbarian camp burned all night. Beautiful sight. 5 stars on Yelp. Shao Xiong's Grey Wolf Riders hit their supply depot from behind, and the whole coalition started falling apart like a wet cookie. By dawn, barbarian tribes were sneaking away in groups. Nobody wanted to die for a war they were losing. The main army pulled back dozens of miles north. My new general wanted to play it safe. Young master, you're wounded. The city is wounded. Let's just wait 3 days and they'll collapse on their own. No. We chase. Now. He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. 5,000 of us chasing 100,000 of them across open plains? Where they have the advantage. If we let them dig in, they'll hold our 4 provinces forever. We need to bite a chunk out of them so big they won't dare come south again. Shao Xiong blinked. Looked at me funny. Then something shifted in his eyes, like he was seeing someone else standing behind me. Understood, young master. But here's the thing. I didn't charge in like an idiot. We ate. We rested. I took a NAP. Then we rode out at nightfall. And instead of attacking, we played the most annoying game in military history. First hit, fire arrows from the north side. Burn a few tents. Disappear before they can react. Barbarians scramble out of bed. Chase us for 2 miles. Find nothing. Come back cursing. They lie back down. Second hit, fire arrows from the west side. More tents burning. Same routine. They chase. We vanish. 7 times in one night. 7 different directions. Every time they'd just drift off to sleep. Whoosh, flaming arrows. Their entire army spent the night in full panic mode, sleeping exactly 0 minutes. Meanwhile, my 3,000 riders were rotating naps on horseback 10 miles away. Totally fresh. Not a scratch. Shao Xiong finally cracked. Young master. With respect. Last night we killed maybe 15 guys and burned 20 tents. My men are the finest cavalry on the steppe. If we'd charged the camp, we could have killed hundreds. This is beneath us. I was mid-bite on a piece of jerky. Handed him one. You think I'm embarrassing the Grey Wolf Riders? He paused. Then, honestly, yes, I like this guy. No BS. When my father led you, every battle was a bloodbath, right? He charged first, you charged behind him, and you won every single time. Then what happened? Xiao Xiong's face fell. He knew exactly what happened. The last campaign. Freak snowstorm. Supply lines collapsed. 15,000 Chu soldiers ground down by attrition. My father caught pneumonia and died. I'm not afraid to die, I said. I'm afraid of my people dying for nothing. Your 3,000 riders are your life's work. If I throw them at 100,000 men, maybe we win, but how many come home? 300? 100? 50? I don't want a Pyrrhic victory. I want a clean win. And I want your boys alive to collect their merit rewards. He stood there staring at me for a long time. His old master taught him how to fight and how to die bravely. I was teaching him something different, how to win while keeping people alive. He bowed. Deep. Forgive my foolishness, young master. Forgiven. Now come on. Let's go take a stroll past their camp. Hey, stroll? Yeah? Just ride by real slow. Let them see us. Let them know we're still here. Can't sleep. Can't eat. Can't relax for 1 second. He laughed despite himself. Young master, this isn't warfare. This is eagle taming. I grinned. Exactly. They invaded my land. They slaughtered my people. So I'm going to break them slowly. Day by day. Night by night. Until there's nothing left. 5 days. 5 days of being the most irritating person on the entire steppe. Every morning I'd ride out with 3,000 Grey Wolf riders, park exactly 5 miles from the barbarian camp, and just stand there. Flags flying, drums beating, horses snorting. Full, come and get me, energy. Their scouts would scramble back to the Khan screaming, he's back. 5 miles out. Same 3,000. Khan Timur would lose his mind. Attack. Destroy them. By the time his army suited up and charged out, I'd already backed up to 10 miles. They chase? I back up to 20. Their horses hadn't eaten proper feed in days. They couldn't catch a 3-legged donkey, let alone the finest cavalry on the steppe. The second they gave up and trudged home, I'd ride right back to 5 miles. Same flag, same formation, same, what you gonna do about it, face. Timur nearly had a stroke. Nights were worse. Fire arrows from the east, then the west, then the south. Sometimes 2 volleys and gone. Sometimes I'd wait half an hour until they just fell asleep, then hit again. 7 times a night. Different direction every time. His entire army couldn't sleep, couldn't eat without nervously looking over their shoulders, couldn't take off their armor, couldn't even pee without a buddy system. Day 3, some small tribe tried to sneak away in the night. I pounced. 3,000 riders obliterated their 200 cavalry. 0 survivors. Word got back to camp and the tribal leaders exploded. Khan, we're falling apart without him even fighting us properly. Timur ordered a retreat north, banking on me not following. Day 5, night 3 of harassment. Something beautiful happened. First volley, a few hundred barbarians chased us. Second volley, maybe 50 guys shot some angry arrows. Third volley, they didn't even light their lamps. Some guy got woken up by a fire arrow, mumbled, "Oh, him again," and rolled over. They were broken. Xiao Xiong was lying next to me on a hilltop, chewing a grass stalk, bored out of his skull. Young master, are we still doing this? At this rate the eagle's gonna die of boredom, not exhaustion. Want some real action? His eyes went wide. Spat out the grass. All units. Check weapons and horses. 15 minutes. Night raid. Full charge. Xiao Xiong almost vibrated with excitement. 3,000 riders lined up in total darkness. No torches. No talking. Horses muzzled. Ghosts in formation. Tonight, 2 objectives only. Kill. Burn. Don't grab horses. Don't grab supplies. Just destroy. Kill. We hit them like a freight train made of shadows. 5 days of, oh, it's just fire arrows again, had turned their reflexes to mush. The sentries barely got the alarm out before we were eyeing the camp. Soldiers woke up to swords in their faces. Some couldn't even find their weapons. Some ran outside barefoot and met cavalry blades. I led from the front, spear through one, smash a second sideways, keep moving. We punched clean through from south to north, turned around, and punched back. Like combing hair. Back and forth. Again and again. Xiao Xiong was glowing. 5 days of strategic patience had him so pinned up he was fighting like a man possessed. Young master, this is incredible. You gotta tame the eagle first. Ha ha ha. 1 incense stick of time. In and out. 2,000 barbarians dead. Remaining supplies torched. Total chaos left behind. Riding away, Xiao Xiong pulled up beside me, vibrating with adrenaline. Young master, you really are the late emperor's son. What? You doubted it. Your father was the fiercest warrior I ever knew. But you're sneakier than a steppe wolf. I'll take that as a compliment. He jumped off his horse, knelt. I submit completely. Your father would be proud. Get up. We're not done. Not done. They massacred tens of thousands of our people. You think one beating settles that? I'm not stopping until they're tame. 3 more days of the same routine. Day. Parade around their camp. Run when they chase. Come back when they stop. Night. Fire arrows. Fake charges. Sometimes just having 30 guys scream outside their camp for an hour. Night 3. I sent another real assault. 3 directions. Killed 3,000 more. Their morale hit absolute zero. By day 4, their soldiers were losing it. Staring at nothing. Mumbling to themselves. One guy randomly jumped up and started slashing at the air. Time you were called an emergency council. We retreat north. The other 4 provinces still have our troops and supplies. We rest, regroup, then come back and crush him. Everyone agreed. They were done. That night, he ordered a phased withdrawal. Keep it orderly. Stay calm. I sent 200 guys to shoot a few fire arrows. Casual. Routine. Barely even trying. And that triggered the most beautiful disaster I've ever witnessed. One sleepy barbarian grabbed his sword, saw someone running nearby, assumed it was an enemy, and slashed. That guy screamed. The noise woke up the next guy, who saw his friend bleeding and assumed enemies were in the camp, started swinging. One sword became 10. 10 became 100. In pitch darkness, nobody could tell friend from foe. Everyone started killing everyone. Camp panic. The entire barbarian army turned on itself. The Khan burst out of his tent, saw absolute hell, his own soldiers butchering each other in every direction, and screamed, "Stop! Stop!" until his voice gave out. Nobody listened. His bodyguards grabbed him, threw him on a horse, and carved an escape route through their own men, fleeing north. Behind them, 100,000 men were tearing themselves apart. I didn't even have to do anything. 200 arrows, and they destroyed themselves. That, my friends, is what happens when you tame the eagle properly. You don't break its wings. You break its mind. After the camp panic, the barbarian army basically ate itself. Timur fled north with whatever was left, and by sunrise the battlefield was a graveyard stretching across the entire plain. I stood on a hill looking at it. Xiao Xiong asked if I'd planned the camp panic from the start. Honestly, no. I just wanted to wear them down. The fact that they went completely insane and started murdering each other was a bonus. A horrifying, brutal bonus. But it taught me something important. The difference between an army that breaks and one that doesn't is trust. My guys at Kingwu had it. Theirs didn't. Over the next 2 weeks, we swept Sangzhou clean. Xiao Xiong chased the barbarian remnants all the way to the border. Xin was too wounded to fight, so his deputy Chun who handled the mop-up operations. Every town, every county, back under Chu control. When I rode through the main city, the people lining the streets looked at me like they couldn't believe it was real. The barbarians are gone. We can go home. I got off my horse and made the announcement. Free land for anyone who settles in Sangzhou. Register and get a plot. Join the army. Double land. 1 year tax-free for civilians. 3 years for military families. The crowd went nuts. Now for the real challenge. Defending this flat, open, completely indefensible 300-mile border. Just wide-open prairie where barbarian cavalry can waltz in whenever they feel like it. Xiao Xiong suggested building a wall. I said, with what money? The court won't send me a single grain of rice. Then I grabbed a handful of dirt and squeezed it. Sticky yellow clay. Very sticky. And suddenly, I remembered a forum post from my previous life about how Qi Jiguang built field fortifications. Thank you, random internet nerd from another dimension. I called in every mason and bamboo worker in the province. Here's the plan. Bamboo framework. Clay bricks mixed with grass roots. Stack them up, 3 days per fortress. When the grass roots sprout, they'll bind the whole structure together into one solid mass. Old Mason Ma tested the clay, felt it, and his eyes went wide. Your Highness, this is genius. Faster than anything my family's done in 3 generations. I bowed to him. I just had the idea. You're the ones building Sangzhou's future. Every craftsman in the room teared up. A prince bowing to workers? Unheard of. Ma swore he'd finish within 3 months. He wasn't lying. 3 days later, first fortress stood. I hacked at it with a sword. Barely a dent. Rammed it with a battering log. Cracked, but didn't collapse. Xiao Xiong's jaw dropped. Where did you learn this? My dad came to me in a dream. 1 month, 160 fortresses. 2 months, 400. 3 months. The entire 300-mile border was bristling with watchtowers, each within arrow range of the next. Signal fires on everyone. If the barbarians sneeze, I know about it in minutes. Time Yuer's spy crawled to the edge of the steppe, saw the fortress line, and went back looking like he'd witnessed a ghost. Time Yuer's response, is that kid even human? Simultaneously, I rolled out the settlement program. Land for everyone. Any origin, any background. First batch of refugees arrived within 3 days. Word spread like wildfire. People flooded in from all 4 fallen provinces. 1 month. Population went from 50,000 to 150,000. 2 months, 200,000. 3 months, 300,000. I organized the military style. 50 people per unit with a leader. 500 per battalion. Government issued tools, seeds, and oxen. Pay back 20% after harvest. Can't pay? Extend the deadline. No interest. Ever. Then the bad news hit. We were running out of food. Sangzhou had been looted clean by the barbarians. New crops weren't ready yet, and the grain merchants couldn't keep up with 300,000 mouths. 2 months of food left. Maybe. If everyone ate like birds. Right when I was pulling my hair out over this, Xiao Xiong showed up with a barbarian diplomat. Great Khan Time Yuer requests peace talks. Eternal ceasefire between our peoples. I put on my coldest face. Eternal ceasefire? What about my 4 other provinces? What about the thousands of civilians your people slaughtered? The diplomat stammered like a broken record. I cut him off. I'm just the Northern Pacification Commissioner. I don't have authority for peace treaties. Send your letter to the capital. He left with his tail between his legs. The second he was out of earshot, I jumped up like a kid on Christmas. Xiao Xiong, come here. Quickly, send an escort with the barbarian envoy to the capital. And make sure everyone along the road hears that the barbarians are begging for peace. Our food problem is solved. See, the court won't send me supplies because they want me to fail. But if the whole country finds out that the useless prince, they threw away, just crushed 100,000-man invasion and made the barbarians come crawling for a peace deal, the court can't ignore me anymore. Public pressure alone will force them to send grain. Sometimes the best weapon isn't a sword. It's gossip. Xiao Xiong came back scratching his head like a confused puppy. Young master, you said the food problem is solved. Did you mean we'd squeeze the barbarians during peace talks? But you just rejected the peace talks. Who said anything about actual peace? You think I'd let them off after what they did to our people? So, we fight. Raid their supplies? Fight with what? Our veterans are injured. The new recruits can barely hold a spear straight. And your 3,000 riders can't feed 300,000 mouths by stealing cattle. He was completely lost. I almost felt bad. Almost. The only people with enough grain are the merchant families down south. And the only thing those people love more than money is more money. Here's the play. The barbarians want peace, which means the border trade routes can reopen. Barbarian furs, horses, and livestock are insanely valuable down south. Southern merchants have been starving for that trade since my father died and the border markets shut down. So I issue a trade decree. Sangzhou is open for business. Any merchant can set up shop here. Just pay a 30% trade tax. But if you pay your tax in grain instead of silver, it drops to 20%. Not a single merchant would choose silver over that deal. They'd be tripping over themselves to dump grain on me just to save 10% on their fur and horse profits. And I kept my promise to Qian. Wanli reduced his taxes, gave him prime real estate in the main city, and made sure everyone knew he was the richest merchant in the north now. Within 2 weeks, shops were popping up everywhere like mushrooms after rain. Inns were packed. Restaurants had lines out the door. Even the old man selling flatbread on the corner couldn't keep up with demand. Baisu asked me if the peace would hold. I told her it didn't matter. When to fight and how to fight is my decision now. Give me 1 year, and the barbarian Khan won't dare look south even in his dreams. Meanwhile, back in the capital, my war report arrived along with the barbarian peace envoy, and the court went absolutely nuclear. Sangzhou is liberated? 3,000 soldiers beat 100,000? Impossible. The report is right here. The peace letter is right here. Truly the late emperor's son. Magnificent. Magnificent? He got lucky. Anyone would underestimate a baby-faced nobody. Then you go fight 100,000 barbarians with 3,000 men. Genius. The war faction wanted to send troops north immediately to help me retake all 5 provinces. The peace faction said the court couldn't afford another war. They screamed at each other for hours. And Uncle Emperor? He sat on his throne looking like he'd swallowed a hornet. Because he was trapped. He can't support the war. If I get bigger in the north, I become a threat to his stolen throne. He'd honestly rather lose all 5 provinces than give me real power. But he can't accept the peace deal either. The barbarians invaded, massacred thousands of citizens, and now they want to shake hands? If the emperor agrees, the entire country calls him a coward. He just stabilized his grip on power. He can't afford that reputation. Checkmate, uncle. Enjoy that puzzle. Later that night in his private study, he read my war report 5 times until the paper was wrinkled from his grip. Then he threw a paperweight across the room. 3,000 soldiers. A crumbling city. 2,000 old men. How? 7 years ago when he took the throne from a 9-year-old, he figured I'd just disappear, fade away in the palace like dust. The servants would handle it. He wouldn't even have to get his hands dirty. When I volunteered for the north, he actually felt relieved. Let the barbarians do the dirty work. The kid dies heroically, nobody blames me. Except I didn't die. And now I'm a national hero. His worst nightmare with better PR. But here's the part that made me smile when I heard about it later. Prime Minister Yu Yanqing, the old man who turned away crying when I knelt in court offering to go north, sat in his study all night reading my report over and over. He was 9 when his father died. 7 years of humiliation. I thought he was finished. I was the Prime Minister of Great Chu, and I was blind. I mistook his patience for weakness. He cried hard. Then he dried his eyes and sent a message to General Liu Qingshan. Come to my house tomorrow. We need to talk. General Liu wasn't sleeping either. He was in his training yard at midnight, holding the same old chipped sword he'd carried when he fought alongside my father years ago. He looked at it in the moonlight and whispered, "Old friend, sorry for the wait." Then he cut a wooden training post in half with one swing. He turned to his personal guard. From today, every military movement in this empire gets reported to me immediately. But sir, those orders go through the war ministry. If we interfere, the emperor will. The emperor is exactly who I'm watching. The prince didn't just retake a province. He gave this country its spine back. If anyone tries to sabotage that, they answer to me. So the scoreboard back in the capital, the emperor can't sleep, the prime minister is plotting, and the most powerful general in the empire just drew his sword for the first time in 7 years. All because of one useless prince they sent north to die. You're welcome. Next morning at court, Uncle Emperor tried everything to recall me to the capital. Every excuse in the book. Prime Minister Yu and General Liu shot down every single one. The old dogs were protecting me from 1,000 miles away. So Uncle pulled big cousin Xiao Yu into his private study for a scheming session. These two are like a villain brainstorming team with zero creativity. Xiao Yu's master plan: give Xiao Lai full authority over peace talks with the barbarians. If he accepts peace, the northern people who lost their families will hate him. If he rejects peace, the barbarians attack again and the court sends zero help. Either way he loses. Uncle Emperor loved it. Then Xiao Yu added the cherry on top. Oh, and I'm sending merchant spies to Sangzhou. Some will leak information to the barbarians. Let them know that Xiao Lai has no backup. No reinforcements. No imperial support. Just one province, alone. 3 days later, the imperial decree arrived. Congratulations, Prince Ning. You now have full military and political authority over the north, and you're in charge of peace negotiations. Here's some gold and silk. Good luck. I read it twice and laughed bitterly. The country is bleeding, and these people are playing chess with my life. Baisu was excited. This is great. You have real power now. You can squeeze the barbarians in negotiations. Peace talks? with the people who used our civilians as human shields? Every northerner would turn on me overnight. And that is exactly what Uncle wants. Meanwhile, 3 suspicious groups of merchants showed up in the city. One group kept asking where our military camps were. Another only came out at night. The third group of fur traders were drinking mare's milk at the tavern instead of local wine. Mare's milk. In a Chinese city. Real subtle, guys. Might as well wear a sign that says, "Hello, we are barbarian spies." Qian Wanli noticed them immediately. His accountant asked if they should tell me. Qian Wanli sipped his tea and said, if the prince can't spot amateurs like these, he wouldn't have beaten 100,000 barbarians. Fair point. I spotted them on day 1, obviously. But I had bigger things to plan. I sent orders to every settlement in Sangzhou. Pick one respected representative and send them to the capital city within 5 days. Farmers, hunters, teachers, village elders, everyone gets a voice. Xiao Xiong was baffled. You want civilians to decide military policy? This isn't my province. It belongs to 300,000 people. If we're going to war, they need to choose it. 5 days later, 500 representatives sat in a giant circle outside the city gates. No fancy chairs, no tea ceremony, just people sitting on the ground under the Chu military flag. Then I brought in the barbarian peace envoy. This guy swaggered in like he owned the place. Barely bowed. Pulled out a scroll and read the Khan's 3 demands. 1. Tear down all 400 border fortresses and give 300 miles of land to the barbarians for grazing. 2. Pay annual tribute, 5,000 bolts of silk, 30,000 silver taels, 50,000 sure of grain. 3. I personally go to the barbarian capital as a guest, which is diplomatic language for hostage. The crowd erupted. Are you out of your mind? An old veteran jumped up. My son died fighting you people, and now you want me to pay you? A white-haired grandmother stood up shaking. In your dreams. We'd rather die fighting. The envoy didn't even flinch. He turned to me with a nasty little smile. Your Highness, you've been hiding the truth from these peasants quite well. Your court won't send a single soldier or grain of rice. You're alone. What exactly are you going to fight with? The crowd went silent. Not scared. Something worse. They finally understood why the court never sent reinforcements after our victory. I was abandoned. We all were. After the envoy left, the silence was crushing. 500 people sitting in the dirt, anger spent, reality sinking in. Then a 76-year-old man with a walking stick stood up. He'd walked 4 days to get here. Your Highness, I've lived through 3 emperors. When your father was alive, the barbarians didn't dare sneeze in our direction. After he died, they took everything from me. My home, my son, everything. His eyes went red. But you drove them out. You gave us land. You gave us tools. You gave us a reason to live. The court won't help you? Fine. We'll help you. I've got half a bag of grain left. It's yours. I've still got 2 working arms. Point me where you need me. One by one, every single representative stood up. We don't blame you, Your Highness. You bled for US. You took swords for US. You say fight, we fight. You say plant crops, we plant. You say dig trenches, we dig. A middle-aged farmer jumped up with his fist in the air. From today, whatever the prince says is law in Sangzhou. Anyone who disagrees is a barbarian spy. 500 rough, calloused hands shot into the air under the same sky, in front of the same flag. I stood in the middle of that circle and smiled. First real smile since I arrived in the north. If you trust me, I will not let you down. That night I stood on the city wall watching the representatives around their campfires below. They hadn't gone home. They were singing folk songs, telling old war stories from my father's era, and one woman was holding up her kid pointing at me. See that man up there? That's our prince. He's a good man. Baisu brought me soup and said something that hit different. Your Highness, Sangzhou is so much better than the capital. You're free here. Nobody bullies you. The people are kind. When I go to the market, everyone gives me free snacks. I flicked her forehead. You like it that much? Want me to find you a big, strong northern husband? Your Highness, after the laughing died down, I got serious for a second. Baisu, you know what those people said today made me think of? What? Roots. A person with roots can't be blown over by any storm. A place with roots can last forever. As of today, Sangzhou has roots. She didn't fully understand. But she saw my face and knew something had changed. What if the barbarians come back? I looked north. smiled. Then they'd better not expect to go home. Behind me. For 100 fortresses, hundreds of thousands of people, and a whole province that just decided, unanimously, sitting in the dirt, that whatever I say goes. I came here with 50 reluctant guards and a broken cart. Now I have an army, a fortress line, a booming economy, and the unconditional loyalty of an entire population. Uncle Emperor wanted me to die here. Instead, I built a kingdom. But having roots isn't enough. Roots need to grow. Morning after the big assembly. Porridge for breakfast, strategy for dessert. I gathered my team and laid it out simple. The people trust us, which is great, but enthusiasm doesn't stop cavalry charges. We need time. One word, gentlemen. Stall. Stall until autumn harvest. Stall until the fortress walls harden. Stall until the raw recruits become real soldiers. Stall until our granaries are bursting. But what if the barbarians get impatient and attack? Xiao Xiong asked. I smiled my fox smile. That's what peace talks are for. They propose terms, we propose counterterms. Today we can't agree, tomorrow we try again. Next week there's a new issue to discuss. Verbally accept 2 of their 3 demands, then haggle over every tiny detail until they want to claw their eyes out. And when we can't drag it anymore, then we flip the table. But by then we'll be ready. Now for the real business of the day, taking out the trash. Governor Zhao Mingyuan. Remember that tea-sipping, leg-crossing bureaucrat who told me to go sit in a corner on day 1? After the siege, I had Chun who raid his mansion. In his basement, we found 30,000 silver taels, boxes of jewelry, and, my personal favorite, a letter to big cousin Xiao Yu detailing exactly how he'd been skimming military pay, blocking my supply efforts, and oh yeah, he sold our border defense maps to the barbarians. The gods themselves couldn't save this man. Public execution. Noon. City square. Full audience. He crawled on the ground begging. I was ordered to do it. Someone made me. Oh really? Who ordered you to sell defense maps to the enemy? Go ahead. Name names. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He knew. If he named Xiao Yu, the prince's people would murder his entire family. If he kept quiet, at least I'd spare his relatives. He chose silence. Smart. For once. I held up his letter to Xiao Yu for everyone to see. Didn't read it aloud, though. Not yet. Xiao Yu is still an imperial prince. Exposing him now would just create chaos that the barbarians would exploit. But that letter? Going in my pocket. It'll have its moment. I know there are more spies in this city. I know who is behind them. I swept my gaze across the crowd. Some merchants were shaking. Some were sweating. Some couldn't look up. Today I'm letting you off. But from now on, anyone in Sangzhou who betrays this province to the enemy gets the same treatment. One wave of the hand. Chop. Head rolled. Eyes still open. Crowd went wild. Then I set up reporting boxes in every settlement. See something suspicious? Report it. Confirmed tip gets you 10 silver taels. Turning Sangzhou into a sealed drum where spies have nowhere to hide. Next order of business, rewarding loyalty. I called Qian Wanlian, the grain merchant who bet on me when everyone else refused. The man who fed my army when the court left us to starve. I slid a document across the table. He opened it. His hand started shaking. An official appointment. Sangzhou Chamber of Commerce Chairman. Rank, 7B. An actual government position. A merchant. With an official title. In a country where merchants have been the lowest social class for 200 years. Where even the richest trader had to kowtow to the smallest county magistrate. Your Highness. I don't deserve. You do? You had the guts to back me when it could have cost you everything. From today, the Chamber of Commerce is an official government body. You manage all commercial activity in Sangzhou. You're my eyes and ears. Hoarding, tax evasion, barbarian connections. I want to know everything. He dropped to his knees, forehead on the floor, crying. My life is yours, Your Highness. Get up. Stop kneeling. Just use your trade network across all 5 provinces to gather intelligence for me. Yeah, he wiped. His tears, straightened up, and for the first time called himself subordinate. Instead of humble merchant, the capital merchant spies were furious about the new commerce rules. A merchant with an official rank? That's chaos. Our backers in the capital won't stand for this. Big talk. But Zhao Mingyuan's head was still hanging on the city wall, and nobody wanted to volunteer as the next example. The Yongchang Company registered quietly. The Guangyuan Company paid their taxes. The fur traders tried to cause trouble, Xiao Xiong parked soldiers outside their door for half a day, and they became very cooperative. That night, the Yongchang boss secretly tied a coded letter to a carrier pigeon and released it southward. The pigeon made it about 200 yards before an arrow knocked it out of the sky. Xiao Xiong stepped out of the shadows, plucked the letter off the dead bird, read it, smirked, and disappeared into the night. Amateur hour. Every single day. Back on the steppe, Time Yuer heard his envoys report about Sangzhou and sat alone in his tent for a long time afterward. Xiaolai, what the hell are you? Buddy, I'm the guy your dad lost to. Junior Edition. Updated firmware. Better battery life. Sangzhou is now a sealed fortress with a spy network, a commercial intelligence system, a loyal merchant class, a terrified trader class, 400 border fortresses, a rapidly training army, and 300,000 people who would literally die for me. Iron. Plate. Solid. I was sitting in my office staring at tax ledgers and grinning like an idiot. 3 months ago, this province was a smoking ruin. Now, monthly commercial tax revenue had quadrupled. The big merchant houses alone paid nearly 20,000 silver taels last month, and all of it in grain instead of cash, because of my tax discount trick. Add the smaller shops, and we were pulling almost 30,000 taels equivalent per month. Enough grain to survive until autumn harvest. Mission accomplished on the food crisis. Baisu was counting on her fingers with her mouth hanging open. We're making how much? The border trade market was the real gold mine, though. I'd been stalling the barbarian peace talks for weeks, rejecting every demand, then offering small sweeteners to keep them at the table. The border market was one of those sweeteners. Simple rules. Our merchants sell tea, fabric, and iron cookware. Barbarian tribes sell horses, cattle, sheep, and furs. Free pricing, but I tax every transaction. First customer, the White Eagle tribe. 200 war horses for 100 carts of tea and 30 iron pots. I walked through that market looking at those beautiful, muscular, grain-fed steppe horses, and my eyes went green with greed. Good horses. Slap full armor on these bad boys, and I've got heavy cavalry. Xiao Xiong, get your riders down here to collect. Xiao Xiong was stroking their manes like a kid in a pet store. Young master, our biggest headache has always been replacing horses. With this market, we can buy as many as we want. Within 2 weeks, 16 more tribes sent trade caravans. 3,000 war horses, 5,000 cattle, 10,000 sheep, all flowing into Sangzhou. Horses went straight to the Grey Wolf riders. Livestock split between civilians and the military. I ordered half a pound of mutton and a bowl of mare's milk added to every recruit's daily ration. Those skinny farm boys started eating like kings and training like demons. You could practically watch the muscle growing on them. But Time Yuer wasn't stupid. He saw Sangzhou getting stronger by the day. His own tribes were literally feeding my war machine behind his back, trading me horses I'd eventually ride against them. So he sent a new envoy with a new play. The Great Khan invites Prince Ning to the Tungri Assembly. A grand festival. Horseback riding, archery, wrestling, the greatest warriors of the steppe competing under the eternal sky. The catch. The Grey Wolf riders are traitors, so they can't participate. I have to send my own men. 5 rounds, best of 3. If I lose, all chew goods at the border market drop 50% in price. He didn't even bother saying what happens if I win. Because in his mind, there's no chance some Chinese farm boys beat steppe warriors at their own sports. And if I refuse, the envoy smiled coldly. Then the steppe warriors will communicate with Prince Ning using swords instead of words. Translation: show up or we invade. I was quiet for a long time. Tell Time Yuer. I'll be there. My team exploded. Xiao Xiong, young master. Without my Grey Wolves, who's going to compete? Our recruits can barely ride, let alone outshoot men who've been on horseback since they were 3. Shenhu. He's right. Our best riders are decent, but they're nowhere near barbarian level. Baisu. Angry foot stomping, I raised my hand. Everyone shut up. You really think Time Yuer wants to play games with us? This isn't a sports competition. It's a military inspection. He wants to see if Sangzhou still has teeth. If we look weak, he invades. So what do we do about the contest? Chun-Hu asked nervously. Doesn't matter if we win or lose. We just need to not embarrass ourselves too badly. Xiao Xiong, pick the competitors. Just don't make it painful to watch. Before I could explain the rest of my plan, Qian Wanli burst in looking like he'd seen a ghost. Your Highness, the capital merchant spies and the barbarian spies have been meeting in secret. I intercepted a letter last night. He handed it over. Short message. During the assembly, we can gauge Sangzhou's true strength. If the Khan marches south, we'll coordinate from inside. Sangzhou will fall. My pupils contracted, but I wasn't surprised. The assembly was always a trap. Timur probes our military capability. His spies inside Sangzhou map our weaknesses. Then they hit us from outside and inside simultaneously. Classic pincer. Predictable, but dangerous. I took a breath. Chenhu. Next 2 weeks, I'm personally training the new recruits. You gather every blacksmith in Sangzhou and forge 3,000 sets of iron armor. 3,000? In 2 weeks? That's impossible. Then refit old armor. Stitch iron plates on a cloth uniforms. I don't care how it's done. In 2 weeks, I need 3,000 soldiers who look like elite heavy infantry. Shiny, intimidating, and terrifying. They don't need to be elite. They need to look elite. Timur wants to see our strength? I'll give him a show he won't forget. For the next 15 days I lived on the training field. 1,200 recruits divided into 6 formations. Shield bearers front, spearmen center, archers rear. Every step synchronized. Every breath timed. Every sword raised at the exact same angle. 1 rep, bad. Again, again, again. 10 times. 50. 100. By the end of 2 weeks I was sunburned 3 shades darker. 0 trace of the pampered palace prince left. Just a drill sergeant with royal blood and a very detailed plan to scare the living daylights out of a barbarian Khan. You want to see what Sangzhou's made of? Oh, I'll show you. The Tengri Assembly. Timur's big show. Hundreds of tents, tribal chiefs from across the steppe, thousands of barbarian cavalry, and the Khan himself sitting on a raised platform in black armor with a jewel-encrusted sword looking like the final boss of a video game. I rode in with Xiao Xiong and 100 Grey Wolf riders. Timur looked down at me with that smug face. Oh, the Grey Wolf traitors dare show themselves before the eternal sky. I didn't even blink. Funny you mention betrayal. Remind me, wasn't it your heavenly wolf tribe that knelt at my father's feet and swore loyalty to the eternal sky, then broke that oath the second he died? The actual traitor here is lecturing people about loyalty. His face twitched. Beautiful. If you're scared of the Grey Wolves, just say so. No need for all these tricks. Tribal chiefs started whispering. Timur's face got uglier. Scared? Bring out the warriors. Let's start. Why the rush, Khan? You brought all these guests to MY doorstep. I'm the host here. Wouldn't be polite if I didn't offer some entertainment first. He blinked. Confused. I pointed back toward my fortress line. Look, 120 war drums started pounding at once. Boom, boom, boom. And through the fortress gates came my masterpiece. 3,000 soldiers in pitch-black iron armor. Not shiny dark. Matte black that swallowed light. Moving as one body, one heartbeat, one machine. Shield wall front. Spears center. Crossbows rear. Every footstep landing at the exact same millisecond. No battle cries. No shouting. Just synchronized steps and silent killing intent rolling across that field like a tidal wave. The barbarian horses started backing up on their own. Trained war horses, veterans of 100 raids, instinctively retreating from the sound of those boots hitting the ground in perfect unison. 3,000 men. 1 footstep. The tribal chiefs stood up from their seats. Then they saw the banner. Blood red. 2 characters. Trapping camp. Timur's face went ghost white. Because his father had faced a unit with that same name. My dad's personal heavy infantry. The cavalry killer. The unit that turned wave after wave of steppe horsemen into decorations on their spear tips. And now it was back. Bigger. And if anything, more terrifying. Because 3,000 men making one sound isn't training. That's something else entirely. Halt. I shouted one word, and all 3,000 froze instantly. Not a single soldier shifted. Not a rustle. Not a breath. 3,000 statues in black iron. I turned to Timur. Khan, I didn't come here to play games with you. I came to show you something. Trapping camp. Kill. 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 3,000 voices. One word. 3 times. Each one hitting the barbarians like a physical slap. Horses reared. Warriors flinched. Chiefs grabbed their armrests. I know you never wanted peace. So let me say what I actually came to say. My voice dropped to ice. The 5 northern provinces of Great Chu. I'm taking them all back. If you'd like to keep some of your warriors alive, I suggest you go home to the steppe. Soon. Then, without waiting for his response, I turned to face all the tribal chiefs directly. The border market stays open. Taxes stay fair. You want to trade? Welcome. You want to fight? Trapping camp. Kill. 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 Dead. Silence. Not one barbarian chief dared to make a sound. Timuer's face was the color of overcooked liver. He wanted to draw his sword and chop me into wolf food so badly. But he couldn't, because between my trapping camp and Xiao Xiong standing next to me with his hand already on his blade, there was no guarantee he could kill me. And if I escaped back to Tsangzhou? War. Again. Against that. He'd beaten my father's version of this unit with overwhelming numbers and a blizzard. He did not have that advantage anymore. If he lost again, the tribes would rip him off the throne themselves. So he swallowed it. Every last drop of humiliation. I acknowledge you have some skill, but even your father, the great martial emperor, died in the north. You think one province can stand against the entire steppe? He was screaming, fully unhinged. His perfectly planned Tungri assembly, the warriors he'd prepared, the contests he'd organized, the grand scheme to expose my weakness, all of it ruined. I didn't compete. Didn't need to. I just showed up with 3,000 synchronized nightmares and made every barbarian in attendance relive their worst PTSD. He finally spat out the words through clenched teeth. I won't interfere with the tribes trading at your market. Much appreciated, Khan. I mounted my horse and rode back toward my fortress line. Didn't look back. That night, Qian Wanli reported that the capital spy merchants packed their bags and ran. Fled Tsangzhou overnight the moment the assembly ended. Want me to send men after them? No. Let them run home and tell their masters what they saw. Let those court snakes know exactly what Tsangzhou is now. Bai Su brought me soup on the city wall and said I looked really cool today. Cool? I almost lost. But you didn't even compete. That's the point. I couldn't compete. Those 3,000 soldiers in black armor, they've never seen real combat. They're farmers who learned to march in formation 2 weeks ago. If we'd actually fought, they would have crumbled. She stared at me. So, it was all a bluff. I was betting that Timur values his throne more than his pride. He saw the fortresses, the armor, the discipline, and he couldn't risk being wrong. If he attacks and loses again, his own tribes will eat him alive. So it's fake. I flicked her forehead. It's not fake. It's called winning without fighting. Sun Tzu, Chapter 3. Look it up. She rubbed her head and nodded like she understood, which she definitely didn't. I spread my arms and let the northern wind hit my face. Give me a little more time. Soon enough, I won't need to bluff. 3,000 farm boys in refurbished armor just stared down the entire barbarian nation. And won. My father built the original trapping camp with veteran killers who'd fought 100 battles. I rebuilt it with scared kids who were planting turnips 8 weeks ago. Different methods. Same result. Dad would either be very proud or very concerned about my approach to military science. Probably both. Peace and quiet after the Tungri assembly. Border market humming along. Barbarian spies gone. Timur licking his wounds. Nice. But I knew this was just half-time. Spring was coming. Grass grows. Horses breed. Barbarians get fat and confident again. Timur still controlled 4 of our 5 provinces worth of resources. Once he sorted out his tribal politics, he'd come back with everything. I needed to turn my bluff into reality. Those 3,000 parade soldiers needed to become an actual weapon. Day 1 of real training. Before sunrise. Training field outside the west gate. 10 acres, torches everywhere, lit up like a stadium. I showed up in workout clothes instead of armor and introduced the new program. Pull-up bars, parallel bars, rope nets, obstacle courses, stuff I remembered from military training in my previous life. Nobody in this world had ever seen a pull-up bar before. 3 months of this. I train with you. Anyone who can't keep up gets cut. The recruits were excited. After weeks of nothing but standing in formation and marching, this was like a playground. Guys were racing each other on the obstacle course, competing at push-ups, showing off on the bars. During a rest break, one absolute unit of a human started doing handstands on the parallel bars like it was a gymnastics competition. Hey, what's your name? He flipped off the bars, snapped to attention. Sir, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Squad. People call me Luo Dinyo. This guy was over 6 feet tall with arms like tree trunks and a chest you could use as a battering ram. You don't look like a refugee. What did you do before? He scratched his head with this goofy grin. I used to hunt with my dad. One time I accidentally tore a bear's skin while skinning it because I pulled too hard. My dad was going to beat me, so I ran away. Then the barbarians showed up, but their horses couldn't keep up with me, so I just ran over 2 mountains and ended up here. I'm sorry, what? You tore a bear hide with your bare hands. And you outran cavalry on foot? Over 2 mountains? I suddenly understood why Cao Cao loved having guys like Su Chu and Dianwei around. Having a personal monster on your team is it's a different feeling entirely. Luo Dinyo, you're a born champion. Just remember one thing in this army. Obey. Absolute obedience. I'll handle the thinking. He grinned. Got it. Filed that name away in the definitely promoting this guy folder. End of day 1. Everyone was laughing and having fun. This is way better than standing in formation. These bar things are great. Guys doing tricks, racing, joking around. I didn't stop them, because I knew what was coming tomorrow. Day 2. Pre-dawn. Freezing cold. 3,000 men lined up in the dark. I walked out with a smile that made several people visibly uncomfortable. Today's schedule. Push-ups, 500. Sit-ups, 500. Frog jumps, 500. Shuttle runs, 50. Pull-ups, 100. Parallel bar dips, 100. Obstacle course, 10 laps. Then strap on 20 extra pounds and run 10 laps around the field. Begin. 3,000 bodies hit the dirt simultaneously. First 100 push-ups? Most guys handled it. 200? People started collapsing. 300? Only me and Luo Dinyo were still going strong. Arms shaking like leaves. Faces turning purple. Some guys sneaking their knees down to cheat. One kid named Wang Ergo. Yes, another Ergo. This army collects them apparently. Collapsed face first into the mud, voice cracking. Your Highness, I really can't. I didn't even look up from my own push-up. Then get out of the trapping camp. Everyone. If you can't handle it, leave. This unit doesn't accept quitters. Harsh? Absolutely. But the trapping camp gets triple pay, the best weapons, the best armor, and meat every single day. In a province full of people who nearly starved to death, getting kicked out of this unit means losing everything. Nobody left. Yesterday, they thought this was a game. Today, they learned games are over. After I yelled at Wang Ergo, the whole field went quiet. Every recruit stared at me still doing push-ups, and something clicked in their heads. The prince hasn't given up on us. Why should we quit? Then Luo Dinyo, bless his beautifully stupid soul, screamed at full volume. Everyone do your damn push-ups. Anyone who makes the prince angry again, I'll crush your balls. He was about 30 seconds late on the emotional moment. Everyone was already back to exercising. Classic Dinyo timing. 500 push-ups, 500 sit-ups, 500 frog jumps, 50 shuttle runs, then pull-ups. Some guys got to the 3rd set and just hung there like dried fish on a clothesline. Others ripped their palms open, blood running down the bar, and kept going. Dinyo cranked out all 100 pull-ups without breaking a sweat. Hopped down, dusted his hands. Your Highness, these are fun but kinda light. Can we add weight? I stared at him. Is this man even human? Then on the parallel bars, he finished first again and started going around helping other guys finish, lifting their legs, supporting their backs, coaching them through each rep like a giant friendly forklift. Dinyo, starting today, your vice squad leader. He froze, then slammed his fist to his chest so hard I thought he'd crack a rib. Thank you, Your Highness. By noon, 3,000 soldiers were lying on the ground like beached whales, gasping for air. Dinyo was flat on his back too, but mumbling, that was awesome. So damn awesome. And that was just the morning. Welcome to 3 months of hell. Daily schedule. Wake up before dawn. 20-pound weighted 5-kilometer run just to warm up. Then push-ups, sit-ups, frog jumps, shuttle runs, pull-ups, parallel bars, obstacle course. 500 minimum each. No upper limit. Afternoon. Sword drills. 1,000 chops. 1,000 thrusts. Night. Stealth exercises in total darkness. I did every single rep alongside them. First week, I ranked somewhere in the middle of the pack. Embarrassing for a prince, but honest. 2 weeks in, top 10. 1 month, top 5. 2 months, I was competing with D8 NIU for first place. The soldiers couldn't process this. Their prince was turning into a beast right before their eyes. One time during a weighted cross-country run, I twisted my ankle, swelled up like a melon. Baisu was crying, begging me to stop. I wrapped it tight with cloth and limped the entire remaining distance. Couldn't get my boot off afterward because my ankle had swollen inside it. Was that smart? No. Was it necessary for morale? Absolutely. But here's the thing I didn't expect. My body was apparently broken in the best way possible. I must have inherited my father's freak genetics because my recovery speed was inhuman. Daniel would be sore the next day. Me? Sleep one night, wake up completely fresh. Like the training never happened. And my appetite? I was eating enough for 2 days and a single meal. The kitchen staff started making extra just for me. My body changed completely. 3 months ago, I was a pale, skinny palace boy. Now, wide shoulders, thick chest, arms with actual, visible muscle definition. I looked like a completely different person, a northern warrior who'd been fighting his whole life. My combat ability skyrocketed too. When I sparred with Xiao Xiong, a veteran warrior, the greatest fighter of the Grey Wolf tribe, our blades clashed, and he was the one who nearly dropped his weapon. His hands went numb from the impact. Your Highness, your strength grows every day. Truly your father's son. I twirled my blade and grinned. I thought I'd have to win with tactics and clever plays. Turns out I'm also a stat monster. 3 months up. Final exam day. Part 1. 30-pound weighted 30-mile run. 2-hour time limit. Part 2. Sword, spear, and archery skills graded by Chun Hu and Xiao Xiong. Part 3. Full combat simulation. 6 teams. Losers get an extra month of training. The entire city showed up to watch. Civilians, merchants, village representatives, people from neighboring counties. The training field was packed. I stood at the starting line in a regular soldier's uniform. No armor, no sword, no royal insignia. Just another grunt ready to run. 3,000 trapping camp soldiers lined up behind me. 3 months ago, they were starving refugees who could barely stand. Today, we find out what they've become. The crowd showed up to watch the trapping camp exam, and I immediately realized I'd made a huge mistake. 3 months ago, I paraded these guys in shiny armor, doing synchronized marching. Impressive, but safe to show publicly. Now they were about to demonstrate actual combat skills, obstacle courses, weapons proficiency, the real stuff. And in that crowd of supportive citizens, there were definitely barbarian spies taking notes. Brain kicked into gear. Called Chun Hu over. Get General Shun. He's been whining about wanting to do something useful with one arm? Perfect. Have him run a military parade through the main street with the regular infantry. Big spectacle. Drums, flags, the whole show. That'll pull every civilian and every spy away from this training field. Within 30 minutes, the entire crowd had migrated to watch 10,000 regular soldiers march through downtown. First proper military parade since Zhangzhou was liberated. Shin was up on the platform, one arm, full swagger, loving every second. Meanwhile, back at the now empty training field, I ran my trapping camp through their real exam in private. After the fitness tests, everyone was dead on the ground. Except 2 people, me and Danielle, standing there like nothing happened. Your Highness, flat ground is boring. Wanna race up that mountain? I looked at the mountain on the Zhangzhou border. Steep. Wild. Perfect. Full gear. First one to the top wins. If you win, I'll make you commander of the entire trapping camp. Daniel's face lit up like sunrise. Thank you, Your Highness. Hee. Daniel's gonna be a general. This man was celebrating his victory before we started. The audacity. The confidence. I hated how justified it was. Go. I took off running. Daniel was right behind me. For about 5 minutes. Then that mountain-born freak started pulling away. He'd grown up hunting in forests like this. Every footstep landed perfectly. Every grab found the right branch. Every jump covered twice the distance mine did. He was humming a folk song while running up a 40-degree incline in full armor. Meanwhile, I was tripping over roots, sliding on rocks, and nearly face-planting every 30 seconds. Flat ground fitness means nothing on a mountain. He beat me by a mile. Literally standing at the top, not even breathing hard, when I dragged myself up, clutching a tree. Your Highness, I won. Yeah, you did. You animal. Congratulations, Commander. He dropped to his knees and started screaming at the sky toward the north. Daewat, your son made it. I'm a general now. When we take back Yuzhou, I'm gonna get land and build you the fanciest tomb on the best, Danielle. I'm sorry about your father. He turned around confused. Huh? My dad's not dead. What? Our old hunting grounds are so deep in the forest that even the barbarians can't find us. Dad's fine. Just can't visit him right now. Then why are you planning his tomb? Gotta plan ahead. Good real estate goes fast. I kicked him in the butt. Your dad is alive, and you're shopping for burial plots? What kind of filial piety? I asked this. Then I smelled something. Not wood smoke. Something sharper. Sulfurous. Acrid. Coal. Someone was burning coal nearby. In this era, coal was considered poison charcoal. It killed people with fumes if used in enclosed spaces. Only the absolutely desperate burned it. We followed the smell to a broken-down shack at the base of the mountain. An old refugee couple from Yuzhou, too exhausted to flee any further. Last winter, they nearly froze to death and started burning the black rocks from the mountain behind their house. I crouched by their stove, pulled out a chunk with tongs, and examined it. Black, gray luster, crumbled into light ash. High-quality coal. My hands started shaking. Old man, where exactly did you find these rocks? Up behind the mountain. 7 or 8 miles up, over the ridge, there's a valley. The whole ground is covered in them. The whole ground, the whole mountain, son. I told Daniel to leave his rations with the old man. He pulled out his food bundle, ripped off half a flatbread, and reluctantly offered it. I stared at him, took a deep breath, kicked him again. Give him all of it, you cheap beast. But I'm hungry. I grabbed the whole bundle and shoved all 5 flatbreads into the old man's arms. Finish this errand, and I'll buy you a feast. 2 hours later, we stood on the ridge looking down into the valley. Black veins of exposed coal ran across the entire mountainside like dark scars. Miles of it, just sitting there. On the surface, an open-pit coal mine. Half a mountain of coal. My brain went into overdrive. Coal means coke. Coke means steel. Steel means better weapons and armor. Coal also means cement. Cement means real fortifications. And coal contains sulfur. Sulfur means gunpowder. Gunpowder means barbarian cavalry becomes irrelevant. I was standing on the solution to every single problem I had. Then Daniel's voice rumbled behind me. Your Highness, there are barbarians at the base of the mountain. We crossed into Yuzhou. This is their territory. I turned and looked down at the barbarian patrols below. My eyes caught fire. Yuzhou is not theirs. It's ours. It's Great Choose Yuzhou, half a mountain of coal. On the wrong side of the border. Guarded by the enemy. Time to go shopping. 3 days staring at maps. 3 days of candles burning down and getting replaced. Every mountain, river, and road between Sangzhou and Yuzhou traced and retraced until my eyes crossed. Then I slammed my teacup down. Get me Qian Wanli. He showed up still covered in morning dew. The man had literally moved in next door to the government hall. Employee of the century. He brought intelligence from inside Yuzhou City. His contact, Zhou Shuren, was a merchant whose family was killed by the barbarians but got kept alive because he could do math. They had him counting stolen goods for them. Irony at its finest. The intel, 1,000 barbarian troops inside Yuzhou. 50,000 cavalry in 2 camps outside the city, north and east. 30,000 Chu civilians trapped inside, with the young men locked in compounds doing forced labor on 1 bowl of porridge a day. Zhou Shuren had a resistance network ready, just waiting for my signal. Tell him, when he hears that I've agreed to peace talks with the barbarians, that's the signal. Move immediately. Qian Wanli nodded and left to write the message. I took a long sip of tea. Peace talks? Peace talks. Talk about what? See, for weeks I'd been dragging out negotiations with the barbarian envoy. Time you were kept softening his demands, from territorial surrender to tax reduction to just better trade terms. Each time I shook my head and said, not good enough. This time? I said yes. Fine. Tell your Khan I accept. But border market taxes go up from 5% to 10%. That extra 5% is for the emperor, not me. The envoy nearly flew back to the steppe. Time you heard the news and threw a 3-day party. Killed cattle, roasted sheep, drank until dawn. The whole grassland was singing and dancing. Shall I? Huh. I knew he didn't have the guts to fight us. Buddy, you were celebrating your own funeral. Next morning, I sent Chun Hu as my peace envoy, with 30 men and 3 carts of gifts, heading toward the barbarian court through Yuzhou. Before he left, I handed him a sealed letter. Open this only if you're attacked. He saw 4 characters on the envelope. Open upon ambush. His eyes flickered, but he didn't ask questions. Good soldier. Chunhu's convoy entered Yuzhou territory. Timur's eldest son Jelly rode out to greet them with an escort. Right on Cue, a squad of massed cavalry burst from the plains and charged straight at Chunhu. Chunhu ripped open my letter. 8 characters, righteous cause needed. Frame them. He understood instantly. That magnificent bastard looked at the approaching bandits, who were actually Xiao Xiong's gray wolf riders in disguise, and started screaming. Treachery! You barbarians can't beat us on the battlefield, so you ambush peace envoys? Draw swords. Jelly panicked. No. The Khan would never sabotage peace talks. Let me call reinforcements. He sent riders sprinting back to the Yuzhou camps for backup. Exactly what I wanted. Xiao Xiong deliberately let they fight drag on for half an hour, long enough for Jelly's entire 50,000-man army to empty out of the Yuzhou camps and rush to the rescue. The second those barbarian cavalry appeared near our border, thousands of Chu soldiers in the fortress line started screaming. The barbarians broke the peace treaty. They're invading. Arrows rained from every fortress. The front ranks of barbarian cavalry got turned into pincushions before they even understood what was happening. Jelly finally realized he'd been played. Xiao Liu son of a... The peace talks were fake. The ambush was fake. Everything was fake. I never wanted peace. I wanted his army out of Yuzhou City. And now 50,000 barbarian cavalry were pinned between my fortress line and Xiao Xiong's gray wolves. Stuck. Meanwhile, 3 days earlier, 300 trapping camp elites had snuck into Yuzhou City disguised as refugees. Dirty clothes, ash on their faces, shuffling in with the other displaced civilians. The lazy barbarian gate guards waved them through without a second look. Inside, they linked up with Zhou Shuren, who had a complete list of which civilians could fight, who had hidden weapons, and who could be trusted. When the ground started shaking from Jelly's army leaving, Zhou Shuren knew. Time's up. Squad leader Ma Cheng kicked down the compound gate. Kill. 300 trapping camp soldiers poured into the streets. Zhou Shuren screamed at the imprisoned civilians. The prince's men are here. Fight. Yuzhou City exploded. Less than 500 barbarian garrison troops versus 300 trained killers plus thousands of angry civilians armed with kitchen knives and torches. The trapping camp cut through them like butter. The south gate. Open the south gate. The prince is coming from the south. The gate guards tried to close up, but it was too late. The gateway was flooded with soldiers and civilians. The bar came off. The doors swung open. Because I was already there. I'd loaded 2,700 trapping camp soldiers onto cargo boats, floated down the Tsang River, waded through freezing water barefoot at the bend 5 miles south of Yuzhou, and marched silently toward the city. Everything was going perfectly, until the ground started vibrating under my feet. Jelly, that fast son of a gun. He'd abandoned his supply wagons, sacrificed 5,000 cavalry as a rear guard to block Xiao Xiong, and sprinted his remaining force back toward Yuzhou at maximum speed. Daniel jogged up beside me. Your Highness, barbarian cavalry incoming. I looked across the open plain. 2,700 infantry on one side, 45,000 cavalry on the other, on a flat field, with nowhere to hide. Oh good. This is fine. Everything is fine. First squad, escort the prince to the city. Daniel made the call before the dust even settled. 2 soldiers grabbed my arms to drag me away. I shook them off with one look. A battle is about to start, and you want me to run? Last time at Kangwu, people died because I was too weak to fight. Zhao Shirtu jumped off a wall on broken legs. Shen lost his arm carrying me. Civilians charged cavalry with kitchen knives so I could escape. Not again. Never again. This time, the trapping camp is here. And where the trapping camp stands, the enemy retreats. I drew my saber. Daniel, raise the banner. Both of them. Let every barbarian on this field know exactly where I am. Everyone, form the circle. 2,700 soldiers snapped into formation so fast, it was beautiful. 3 months of hellish drilling paying off in real time. Outer ring, Daniel's shield wall. Full-body shields hammered into the ground, locked together with iron clasps forming one continuous barrier. Inside that, 2 staggered rows of spearmen, 3-meter spears angled upward, butts jammed in the dirt and pinned by the boots of the men behind them. A forest of steel points aimed at anything stupid enough to charge. Innermost ring, 3 rows of crossbowmen, bolts loaded, strings drawn. Me in the center, with 2 flags. The black trapping camp tiger banner, and my personal bright yellow prince's standard with dragon embroidery reading, Prince Ning of Great Chu is here. 300 steps away, Jelly spotted those flags, and his eyes went wide. He'd been planning to bypass us and race back to save Yuzhou. But the moment he saw MY flag, Yuzhou stopped matching. Shall I? Ha ha ha. The glory of a lifetime. Kill him, and it doesn't matter if we lose 5 provinces. We can always take them back. But a man like this only dies once. Warriors. A few thousand infantry dare block our cavalry? This is your reward. Full formation. Charge. 45,000 riders spread into attack lines across the plain. A wall of curved swords stretching to the horizon. I could hear my soldiers' breathing getting heavier. First real combat. 3 months of push-ups and obstacle courses didn't prepare them for the sound of 45,000 horses accelerating. I picked up a crossbow and casually plucked the string twice. Twang twang. Look at all those barbarians lining up to die. Why so nervous? Every one of them is merit points. After we take Yuzhou, there's acres of free land waiting for you boys, and Dinyo can finally build his dad a tomb while the old man's still alive to complain about the design. Dinyo turned around grinning. Your Highness, that's called being thoughtful. If I wait till he's dead, how will I know if he likes it? The whole formation cracked up. 45,000 barbarians bearing down on us, and these idiots were laughing about funeral planning. The tension evaporated like morning fog. 200 steps. Closing fast. Crossbows. Arc fire. A swarm of bolts arced into the sky and rained down on the charging cavalry. Horses screamed. Riders fell. Gaps appeared, instantly filled by the next wave. Here's the thing about barbarian cavalry tactics. Charge, shoot arrows, use the chaos to close in with swords. Xiao Xiong had taught me every detail. Their fatal weakness? They use short-range soft bows for speed. My crossbows outranged them by a lot. So we shot first. By the time their arrows came back, we were already buttoned up. Raise shields. Every crossbowman whipped out a round shield, slotted into gaps between the spearmen, and the entire formation transformed into a steel-scaled turtle, an armored hedgehog bristling with spears. Barbarian arrows pattered against the shields like rain on a tin roof. Dinyo snorted with laughter. Those arrows hit softer than my DANIU, you're full of it, someone yelled from the ranks. Yeah, I could piss harder than that too, another guy shouted. They were roasting the barbarian archery, in the middle of a battle, while being charged by 45,000 horsemen. I've created monsters. Silence. Brace for impact. The cavalry wave crashed into us. Horses slammed into the connected shield wall. The force distributed across every interlocked panel instead of breaking through individual shields. Riders flew over the shields onto the waiting spear tips. The sound was indescribable. Screaming horses, crunching armor, spears punching through flesh, swords ringing off iron. First wave shattered against us like water on rock. When it passed, a few hundred barbarian corpses hung from our spear wall like grotesque ornaments. Reform. Fire. Shield bearers repositioned, hammered spikes deeper, reclassed connections. Spearmen rotated front and back, knocked the bodies off their weapons against the shields, reset formation. Crossbowmen slotted back in and fired at the retreating cavalry. The whole reset took seconds. Textbook. Flawless. And I could see it happening in their eyes. The moment training became instinct. 3 months of being screamed at, doing 500 push-ups, running until they puked. Suddenly, every single rep made sense. We can win this, someone whispered. Dinyo heard it. No kidding. With the prince here, we can't lose. We trained for this. A bunch of horsemen? They should be scared of us. Morale went from terrified to bring it in about 10 seconds. I raised my saber in one hand, grabbed the trapping camp banner in the other. Trapping camp. Advance. 2,700 soldiers stepped forward. AS1. Kill. The war cry hit the plain like a physical shockwave. Barbarian horses backed up. Trained war horses, refusing to approach. 2,700 infantry, making 45,000 cavalry flinch. Jelly's deputy leaned over. General, This unit is too tough to crack quickly. Let's go around them and reinforce Yuzhou. Jelly smashed his riding crop into the ground. Idiot. This army was built by Xiao Lai personally. Any man who can train infantry to stop cavalry charges head-on. His head is worth 10 Yuzhou cities. Kill him. Even if every single one of us dies here, he must die. If we let him live another year, every warrior on the steppe becomes a lamb waiting for slaughter. 4 waves. Continuous rotation. Don't give them a second to breathe. So that's where we are? 2,700 men in a circle on an open plain. 45,000 cavalry organizing for continuous wave attacks. My banner flying high saying, "Come get me." 3 months ago, these soldiers were starving refugees doing their first push-up. Today, they just tanked a full cavalry charge and laughed about it. Dad, if you're watching, your trapping camp is back. New management. Same energy. The barbarians came back with a new trick, chain cavalry. Riders linked their horses together with iron chains, turning an entire row into one massive battering ram. My individual shields could handle single horses, but a chain of them? That's a different math problem entirely. I looked past the shield wall at their commander Jelly and had to give him credit. His reaction speed getting back here, his tactical adjustments mid-battle, this guy was good. Dangerously good. Which meant he needed to die. Tilt shields. Cut the horses. My shield bearers dropped low, angled their shields into ramps. The chain charge hit and slid up the inclined surface instead of smashing through. While the force was redirected, hooked blades shot out from under the shields and started chopping horse legs like firewood. Crack, crack, crack. Frontline riders crashed down onto our shields, bones snapping on impact. Scatter. The trapping camp dissolved from one big circle into dozens of tiny 5-man spike formations. Each unit, 1 shield, 2 spears braced on the shield, 2 crossbowmen covering the sides. Like stepping on a field of caltrops, the barbarian line charge that was supposed to saw through us like a rope through wood suddenly had nothing to saw. Every direction was a sharp point waiting to stab them. Cavalry blew through the gaps, crashed into the spikes, lost horses left and right. The ones who made it through got crossbow bolts in their backs. Their beautiful formation shattered. Arrow formation. Forward. Whoever kills their commander gets promoted 3 ranks. We reformed into an attack wedge with me at the tip. Shields to the rear blocking any cavalry return. Spears forward aimed straight at Jelly. Crossbowmen suppressing his bodyguards with non-stop fire. Then Jelly did something I did not expect. Instead of retreating, he charged toward me. 100 bodyguards against my entire formation. Head on into our spear wall. Steppe warriors don't run. With me. Kill Xiao Lai, this maniac. Only 100 men, and he's charging an infantry formation because he calculated, correctly, that if he pins me down for a few minutes, his main cavalry can reorganize and hit my unshielded rear. Smart. Terrifyingly smart. We collided. My soldiers targeted horses, not riders, spears in the flanks, horses screaming, barbarians tumbling off. I used a spear shaft as a springboard, launched myself at Jelly, and swung my saber at his skull. Die, his response. He ignored my blade entirely and thrust his curved sword straight at my heart. This psycho was trading his life for mine. What the? I jerked my left arm up. Round shield caught his blade with a clang that rattled my teeth. But the block threw off my swing. My saber only caught his right ear instead of his head. His ear flew off spinning, and he didn't even flinch. Save the YHU, Yahoo. That's what steppe people call a Khan's son. This lunatic is Timuer's kid. My desire to kill him went from strong to absolutely critical. Timur raised a son who's decisive, adaptive, fearless, and has predator-level combat instincts. If this wolf pup inherits the throne, that is the most dangerous enemy Great Chu will ever face. I was about to chase him down when the main barbarian cavalry broke through Dinyo's rear guard. A rider tackled Jelly onto a horse while 2 others grabbed the reins and dragged him away despite him screaming and trying to turn back to kill me. Even missing an ear and bleeding everywhere, he was searching for me. Wanted round 2. Absolute psychopath. I respect it and I hate it. Then arrows started flying from behind me, every single one hitting throats or eyeballs. One-shot kills. Didn't even need to look. Your Highness, forgive me for arriving late, Xiao Xiao. Finally, Chun, who was right behind with reinforcements. One moment, I grabbed a barbarian horse, vaulted on, spotted Jelly's escape party heading toward Yuzhou. Forget the rescue. Xiao Xiong with me. We're chasing that wolf pup. DANIU. Hold position until Chun HU arrives. We chased them all the way to Yozhou's walls, where the south gate was wide open. Our flags flying from the battlements. 300 trapping camp soldiers manning a barricade at the entrance. The city was OURS. Jelly's escorts saw it and veered east. My trapping camp soldiers fired a volley that knocked half of them off their horses. The gray wolves caught up and picked off the rest with precision archery. Find the one missing an ear. I want him dead. We flipped every single body. 3 times. No Jelly. No GLI. That one-eared son of a wolf vanished. Switched horses, switched armor, something. He was gone. Are you kidding me? Xiao Xiong reinforced the trapping camp. If you see anyone missing a right ear, kill first. Ask questions never. He got away. The one enemy I absolutely needed to eliminate, and he slipped through my fingers. Yuzhou is ours. The battle is won. But somewhere out there, a one-eared wolf pup is running home to daddy with a very personal grudge and the tactical mind to act on it. I just made the most dangerous enemy of my career, and I only got his ER as a souvenir. I was still fuming about one ear escaping when an old man in rags hobbled out of Yozhou's gates with a crowd of civilians and dropped to his knees. Zhou Shuren, at your service, your highness. Behind him, hundreds of Yuzhou citizens hit the ground bowing. I jumped off my horse and pulled the old guy up before he broke a hip. You're Zhou Shuren? The man who ran our entire spy network from inside an occupied city while pretending to count stolen goods for barbarians? Sir, you are a legend. He tried to kneel again. I had to physically hold him upright. Then Daniel thundered up with the trapping camp behind him. Your Highness, barbarians scattered in every direction. Xiao Xiong is chasing them down. No sign of one ear yet. Chun who sent me to guard you. How are our boys? Daniel slapped his chest armor so hard it echoed. Just a few dozen wounded. Not a single death. Our armor is so thick those barbarian swords bounced off. Some guys still have broken blade fragments stuck in their chest plates. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. Zero Kia on the trapping camp's first real battle. 3 months of hell training paid OFF. Let me see one of those broken blades. Daniel grabbed a dark-skinned soldier named Wang Bin and pointed at the barbarian sword fragment wedged in his shoulder plate. Then, without any warning, Wang Bin just reached in and yanked the blade fragment out of his own wound with his bare fingers. I kicked both of them. Are your hands clean? You're digging in an open wound with dirt fingers. What if it gets infected? DANIU. New rule, any wounded soldier sees a doctor. Nobody plays field surgery with their own body parts. I'll get you guys something better soon. Now get inside the city. And don't bother the civilians. The trapping camp marched through Yozhou's gates in perfect formation, fresh off their first victory. Chin so high, they were practically looking at the sky. The citizens lining the streets were in tears. If all of Chu's soldiers were like this, the barbarians would never have taken our home. I smiled, then examined the broken barbarian blade. Cracked along fault lines, layers separating at the edge. Garbage metallurgy. The fact that they conquered 4 provinces with weapons this bad says more about how rotten our border defenses were than about barbarian strength. Filed that thought away. Pocketed the blade. Then Zhou Shuren dropped a bombshell. Your Highness, I can't take credit for any of the planning. The spy network, the civilian organization, the weapon stockpiling, even the idea of me working as the barbarian's accountant. That was all my nephew's doing. Your nephew, Zhou's son. My brother's boy, orphaned young, raised himself mostly. He started preparing for your arrival before you even took back Sangzhou, like he knew you were coming. Someone who predicted my moves before I made them? Who built an underground resistance from scratch inside an occupied city? That's not a nephew. That's a strategic asset. Zhou Shuren led me to a straw hut that turned out to be less house and more library that someone accidentally sleeps in. Books everywhere, stacked floor to ceiling. The bed was made of books. The furniture was books. It smelled like old paper and genius. Sunner, Prince Ning is here. Come pay your respects. Zhou Shuren dug through a pile of scrolls and excavated a skinny young man who was sitting in the book pile reading with his eyes closed, memorizing text. The kid didn't even look up. A prince who's about to die? What's there to see? I blinked. Out of respect for his patriotism, I'll give him one piece of advice. Abandon the north. fake your death, disappear. That's his only chance of survival. He said this like he was commenting on the weather. Then he straightened his sleeve that Joe Shuren had wrinkled and went back to reading. Joe Shuren nearly had a heart attack. Forgive him. His parents died young. No manners. Whatever punishment, I'll take it for him. I laughed. Walked over. Sat down on his book bed. Joe Sun? Sharp eye, I'll give you that. Sitting in a pile of books, yet reading the entire political landscape perfectly, but you're still just a bookworm making bold claims about my fate. Don't you think that's a little arrogant? He still hadn't looked at me. I like this kid already. Arrogant? When was I arrogant? This kid didn't even stand up to argue with me. Just tilted his chin up from his book pile like a cat that's been disturbed. From the day you left the capital, you were already a dead man walking. I patted the spot next to me on the book bed. Sit. I want to hear this. He looked at me, smirked, then walked over and stacked books into a chair right in front of me, so we'd be face to face. I don't like turning my head to talk. No offense. Then he bowed. A student's bow, not a subject's, and started dismantling my entire life strategy like a professor grading a bad essay. If you'd stayed in the capital, the emperor wouldn't dare touch you openly. The behind-the-scenes tricks? Manageable, if you're careful. When I heard you'd taken back Songzhou, I thought maybe you had allies at court pulling strings. But then the peace terms came through, and I realized you have zero support in the capital. Nothing. No faction, no backing, no safety net. He leaned forward and pointed at my forehead. Honestly, did your brain only start working after you got to the north? Zhou Shuren nearly fainted. He slapped Zhou Sun's hand away from my face and started bowing so fast I thought he'd topple over. Forgive him. He's had a mental illness since childhood. He says crazy things. Please don't kill him. I caught the old man before he hit the ground and told him to relax. Nobody was dying today. Then I told him to go prepare a feast for the liberated citizens. Gave him an excuse to leave so the kid and I could actually talk. Zhou Shuren scurried out, but not before whacking his nephew one more time as a warning. Once we were alone, I kicked Zhou Sun's shin lightly and dropped the prince act completely. Your eyes are sharp, kid. You're right. I only got smart after my dead dad visited me in a dream. But explained the dead man walking part. He sized me up head to toe, then laughed. Huh. I imagined you'd be all dignified and royal. The man who outsmarted the entire barbarian nation turns out to be this. Interesting, I shrugged. Holding the serious face is exhausting. Finally met someone with actual brains, so I figured I'd stop pretending. His expression shifted. Serious now. Your only way out is to fake your death on the battlefield and disappear forever. Otherwise, you'll die in the north just like your father. I nodded. He was about to elaborate, but I cut him off. I take you, Zhou. News reaches the capital. Uncle Emperor can't ignore me anymore. He'll launch a national campaign against the barbarians with me as the vanguard. Then at the critical moment, pull the support troops, cut my supply lines, trap me deep in enemy territory. I die heroically fighting barbarians. Clean hands for everyone. The barbarians hate me personally now, so they'll throw everything at me. Uncle gets rid of me without blame. Perfect murder disguised as war. I said all this like I was reading a restaurant menu. Zhou Sun stood up, genuinely alarmed. If you know all this, why did you rush to take Yuzhou? You could have just stayed in Songzhou, built your strength slowly, maybe traded with the barbarians, kept yourself safe with options in every direction. You knew the consequences, and you grabbed glory anyway? That's not brave, that's stupid. He was getting more worked up than me about my impending death. Then I said 3 words that shut him up completely. What about the people? Dead silence. Just his heavy breathing filling the shack. I stood up and put my hand on his shoulder. You thought I came north to build a personal army? Use my father's name to carve out a warlord kingdom? Or maybe team up with the barbarians, march south, and steal back the throne? Is that really what you see when you look at me? I reached over and poked a hole in his paper window. Sunlight streamed in. Outside, Yuzhou's citizens were running around setting up celebration tables, laughing, carrying food, hugging each other. Look at them. Really look. Thrones? Empires? It's all just dreams that fade. Dynasties rise and fall, but the people pay the price every time. I'm not here for a crown. I'm here for them. He stared at me. Something cracked behind those arrogant eyes. You're smart, I told him. But your intelligence isn't what I like most about you. He blinked. Then what? Your Highness isn't into men, right? Because I'll have you know my appearance is quite. Get out of here with that. I fake kicked him, and he actually laughed. A real laugh. The armor of arrogance fell off completely. He straightened up and gave me a proper bow. Student Joe's son, please teach me. I bowed back. No jokes this time. What I like about you is your anger. You act aloof and superior, but really you're just furious at a world that doesn't care about ordinary people. You helped Zhou Shuren organize the resistance because you couldn't stand watching civilians suffer. But you refused to come meet me because you assumed, like everyone else, that a prince wouldn't give a damn about commoners. He nodded quietly. Then he dropped a bomb of his own. Before you arrived, I wrote a letter to the barbarian prince. Jelly. I told him if he wanted to truly hold the northern provinces, he had to stop massacring civilians. Win their hearts and the land would be his permanently, and Jelly listened. He banned recreational killing, set up porridge stations, actually started governing instead of just looting. Before I met you, I thought, maybe he was the better option for these people. So that's why he wanted me to fake my death. He'd found a barbarian leader with actual brains and compassion, and figured peaceful barbarian rule might be better than endless war. I smiled and interrupted him. So you wanted me to disappear and let your barbarian pen pal run things, because he seemed like good leadership material. He winced. When you put it like that, no punishment needed. Your heart was in the right place. I walked to the door and pushed it wide open. Sunlight flooded the dark little book cave. Zhou Sun squinted, shielding his eyes, looking at my silhouette in the doorway. Oh, by the way, that barbarian prince you're so impressed with. I grinned over my shoulder. I cut his ear off about 2 hours ago. I barely stepped outside the book shack when Xiao Xiong galloped up. Your Highness, Timur himself is outside with 50,000 cavalry. Says you sabotaged the peace talks and wants an explanation. Explanation? He can have one. Right up his. Last time at Kangwu he brought 100,000 and couldn't get in. Now he's got half that and no siege equipment. What's he gonna do, glare at us? I climbed the wall and looked out. Couldn't help but grin. Remember Kangwu? At least 10 different tribal banners flying in that army. Now, just Timur's wolf flag. All the small tribes ditched him. Xiao Xiong laughed. Of course. Steppe people follow winners. You beat him twice, took back 2 provinces, and chopped up his best son. Nobody wants to be on that sinking ship. Speaking of one ear, Xiao Xiong dropped some very interesting cultural intel. Young master, on the steppe there's a mourning tradition called the ear-cutting ritual. When an elder dies, family members cut a wound on their right ear as a sign of grief. It's sacred, so Jelly is missing his entire right ear. He's Timur's firstborn, the obvious successor. But a Khan with no right ear? That's not mourning, that's permanent shame. Timur can never pass the throne to him now. It'd be the biggest humiliation in steppe history. My brain went into overdrive. Gears spinning so fast smoke was probably coming out of my ears. Xiao Xiong. Does everyone on the steppe want to be Khan? Does a fish want water? Every steppe man dreams of uniting the grasslands under his banner. I started laughing. A plan so devious it scared even me. Then I'll help Jelly become Khan. And claim credit for putting him there. Xiao Xiong's face went completely blank. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. What poisonous thinking? A voice from behind us. I turned around. Zhou Sun had followed me up to the wall. The guards had grabbed him, but I waved them off. Let him through. His brain is useful. Zhou Sun walked up, took one breath, and immediately laid out the darkest version of my vague idea. You want to push Jelly to kill his own father and seize the throne. Then you leak the truth to every tribe on the steppe. A Khan who murdered his way to power? Every ambitious chief will challenge him. The grasslands descend into civil war. Years of fighting. No one has time to bother the north. And then, he was getting excited now. You stage a fake military defeat against Jelly, send a panicked report to the capital begging for help. The court thinks you're losing, drops their guard. And meanwhile you and Jelly secretly split control of the 5 provinces. Shut up. I cut him off because Xiao Xiong's hand was on his sword and the veins in his neck were about to pop. See, Zhou Sun's plan basically required handing Xiao Xiong's head to the barbarians as a peace offering. Since Xiao Xiong is a traitor to the steppe, his execution would be the perfect gift to seal any deal with Jelly. Xiao Xiong didn't need it spelled out. His blade was already halfway out. By the eternal sky? You dare, Prince. Let me kill him first. I'll apologize after. The sword came down at Zhou Sun's neck. I caught the blade with my bare hand. Steel bit into my palm. Blood ran down my arm and dripped onto the stones. Damn, that hurts. Xiao Xiong dropped the sword like it burned him and crashed to his knees. Your Highness, my crime deserves. I grabbed Zhou Sun's ratty sleeve and wiped the blood off the blade, then slid the sword back into Xiao Xiong's sheath. We haven't even started the battle, and you're already cutting me. 3 days. No drinking. That's your punishment. He stared up at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Now go get the medic. My hand hurts. He scrambled off the wall like a startled horse. Zhou Sun watched the whole thing, and his brain was visibly calculating. Clever move, Your Highness. One hand wound buys lifelong loyalty from your top general and makes me feel indebted. What a manipulation, slap. I backhanded him across the face. Are you done? You think everything is a scheme? You think I caught a sword blade as a political move? I don't need your strategies. I don't need your scheming. I don't need your brain. Understand? Every drop of arrogance drained from his face. His eyes went hollow. Then, why did you do that for me? I looked at the cut on my palm. Because you're one of my people. Blocking a sword for a citizen is just what you do. You helped Zhou Shuren organize the resistance. You wrote to Jelly trying to stop the massacres. You told me to disappear so the killing would stop. Everything you've done was for these people. So why do you insist on seeing the worst in everyone? He went quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. Because I don't believe good people exist. I've read every book, met every kind of person, and all I've found is garbage. Before the barbarians came, officials and merchants rigging grain prices, rich families lending money until poor farmers had to sell their children. When the barbarians attacked, the border army charged civilians a protection tax at the city gates, then ran away, left everyone to die. Those people worked their entire lives, never even ate proper rice, and they get crushed by parasites from both sides. This world is, he was screaming now, shaking, face red, tears forming. Then his body swayed. Too weak, too hungry. The fury was bigger than the body trying to contain it. I caught him before he fell, grabbed half a ration biscuit from a nearby soldier, pressed it into his hand, and finished his sentence for him. This world shouldn't be like this. This world shouldn't be like this. Right. It shouldn't. Zhou Sun perked up for a second, then deflated like a punctured balloon. But it is. And even if you're different from the rest of the garbage, so what? You're still going to lose. He laid it all out. The steppe is endless. Barbarians can always run north and rebuild. Meanwhile, I'm stuck defending 5 provinces while also watching my back against the imperial court. Northern frontier is poor, harsh land that can't sustain a big army forever. If Timur and Uncle Emperor ever coordinate, I'm dead within months. I listened to the whole thing and just smiled. Oh, so you're not crazy, you're just hopeless. You see no path to victory, so you cope by being the most pessimistic person alive. His analysis wasn't wrong, honestly. If I were a normal prince with normal knowledge, I'd be absolutely screwed. 2 enemies, no allies, frozen wasteland, no sustainable economy. But I'm not a normal prince. I've got an entire previous life's worth of knowledge in my head, plus centuries of historical examples of people who solved exactly these problems. I don't just have ideas. I have a roadmap. Before I could explain any of this, Xiao Xiong came thundering up the stairs, literally carrying the army medic on his back. Where's the wound medicine? Which one stops bleeding? Is it this one? He was squatting in front of the medical kit, huge warrior hands fumbling through tiny bottles, screaming at labels he couldn't read because he grew up on the steppe. Shut up. You're giving me a headache. Let the doctor do his job. While the medic bandaged my hand, I gave Zhou Sun a look. You know what you said earlier almost got you killed, right? You've read 10,000 books. Did none of them teach you how to talk to people without making them want to murder you? Zhou Sun turned red, kept glancing sideways at Xiao Xiong like a nervous cat. Took him the entire time the medic worked on me before he finally shuffled over and bowed properly. I spoke out of turn. I offended the general. Please punish me. Xiao Xiong, bless his simple, beautiful heart, went from homicidal rage to total forgiveness in about 3 seconds. Forget it. I've seen every kind of person on the battlefield. You think I'd hold a grudge against a bookworm? Just like that. Done. This man's emotional processing speed is incredible. Then an arrow thunked into the wall next to us. Barbarian envoy below screaming about how I broke the peace, and stole Yuzhou, and the Khan demands an explanation or he'll unleash his cavalry. Zhou Sun immediately started strategizing. Stall. Pretend to negotiate again. Reopen the border market. Set different tax rates for different tribes to play them against each other. Send an exaggerated military report to the capital begging for help. The court will love watching us struggle and won't interfere. Smart plan. Careful. Conservative. Perfect for a normal situation. I leaned over the wall and screamed at the envoy. Explanation? You want me to apologize for taking back my own land? Go ask Timur if he's getting too old for this. Coming here whining like a grandmother. What happened? Last time I scared him so bad he can only send diplomats now? Forgot how to hold a sword. I just let loose. Every insult I could think of. The envoy was supposed to be a silver-tongued negotiator, and I reduced him to sputtering. Just you wait. When our warriors break through these walls, the Khan will cut you into pieces. That was seriously the best he could do. He rode off fuming. Pathetic. The entire wall garrison was dying laughing. Zero pre-battle tension. Just vibes. Zhou Sun looked like someone had slapped him with a fish. Your Highness. Why? You held Kangwu with a few thousand men. You can obviously defend this city. Why provoke a battle when you could stall? Once fighting starts, news reaches the capital in 2 weeks. The court will absolutely use this against you. You're pushing yourself toward a cliff. I shrugged. 2 weeks for the news to travel. Another month for the court to assemble troops. 2 more weeks to march north. That's nearly 2 months. By then, I'll be done. His jaw dropped. Done with what? Even if you push the barbarians back to the steppe, you can't follow them. Our army is infantry, and the court will cut your supply lines the moment they see a chance. No rear support. Enemies on both sides. You get ground down and, Zhou Sun. What? I know you're panicking, but calm down. Everything you said is correct. Except the ending. Before the courts. Army reaches the north. I'm going to destroy Timur's military, put Jelly on the throne as MY Puppet Khan, and turn the entire steppe into my strategic backyard. Once I control the grasslands, unlimited horses, and south of the northern frontier, flat plains all the way to the capital, the court won't send an army to threaten me. They'll send a gift basket. His eyes went so wide I thought they'd fall out of his skull. Your Highness, do you understand what you're saying? Your father spent his entire life trying to pacify the steppe and died before he could finish. You're talking about doing it in 2 months. I grinned. I left the capital because I didn't want to play their little court games of whispers and poison and backstabbing. I only play one way, wild. I was chilling on top of the city wall like a king on his balcony when the northern barbarians blew their stupid horn. Whoa, yeah, real scary. Anyway, their cavalry split apart and out walked cows. Big, hairy, chunky cows. Yaks, technically, strapped together with ropes and hauling a giant battering ram between them. Like some kind of ancient monster truck, except furry and mooing. My General Xiao Xiong was absolutely losing it. Your Highness, those are sacred snow mountain god bulls. They're unstoppable. I saw one flip an entire cavalry unit when I was a kid. Everyone on the wall was panicking. My advisor Zhou Sun looked like he forgot how to breathe. Classic bookworm, never been in a real fight. Meanwhile me, I was grinning. See, here's the thing nobody in this ancient world knows. In my past life, I biked across Tibet with my college buddies, and the herders there told me exactly how to deal with yaks. Bring me the big crossbow, I said, cool as a cucumber. And get me some wolf poop. You should have seen their faces. Wolf, poop, on arrows. I loaded up the crossbow and, thwip thwip thwip, launched 3 wolf dung arrows right into the middle of the yak herd. Xiao Xiong was like, you missed. And even if you hit them, their skin is too thick. Bro, I said. Look at the cows. The yaks had completely frozen. Just stopped. Huddled together like a bunch of kindergartners who heard a scary noise. Turns out, yaks are terrified of wolves. One whiff of wolf doo-doo, and they're like, nope, not today. But wait, it gets better. Archers. Fire arrows. 1 volley only. My guys launched a wave of flaming arrows at the yaks. Xiao Xiong nearly had a stroke. Keep shooting. You can't kill them with just. I don't want to kill them, I said, grinning like a maniac. Yak fur is super dry from living on frozen mountains. It catches fire beautifully. Now they're burning, and they smell wolves ahead. Which direction do you think a panicking, on-fire yak is gonna run? 3, 2, 1. Moo. The yaks went absolutely berserk, snapped their ropes, did a full U-turn, and stampeded straight back into the barbarian army. Their own secret weapon turned into a flaming cow missile aimed at their own faces. My soldiers went nuts. Victory! 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 I let them have their moment for about 2 seconds, then kicked Xiao Xiong in the leg. Why are you standing here cheering? Take your wolf riders and go. Charge while they're a mess. He started running. Then I grabbed him. One more thing. If you run into that one-eared kid, Tudge, do not fight him. Fake a loss and come back. But why? He's just a baby. I could totally take him. Military. Order. He shut up and charged out. Zhou's son, the smart cookie, figured out my plan almost immediately. You're doing kill the father, spare the son. You want to use this battle to boost Tudge's reputation so he becomes the next Khan. Ding ding ding. Give this man a prize. But won't Tudge chase us if we fake retreat? I jerked my thumb toward the base of the wall. Take a peek. Zhou Sun leaned over and nearly swallowed his own tongue. 3,000 of my elite fallen formation troops were standing below in pitch-black armor, silent as death, radiating murder energy so thick you could spread it on toast. If Tudge is smart, I said, he'll grab the free credit I'm handing him and use it to climb the ladder. Everybody wins. But if he gets cute and actually tries to push his luck, we delete him. There are other princes who can be Khan. Zhou Sun was catching on fast now. But why Tudge specifically? You cut OFF as EAR. In their culture, that's humiliating. A one-eared Khan would be a national embarrassment. I laughed so hard I almost fell off the wall. Kid, you're smart, but you're still thinking too small. Tudge was the guaranteed heir before I gave him that haircut. Now he's damaged goods. And here I am, tossing him free victories, giving him hope again. What do you think a desperate, half-disgraced prince will do when someone keeps dangling salvation in front of him? Zhou Sun went pale. He'll keep chasing every piece of bait you throw, even if he knows it's poisoned. Now you get it. I slapped his arm. Stop wasting that big brain on petty tricks. If you're going to play the game, play it in the open. The best strategy is the one where your enemy can see the cliff ahead and still has no choice but to jump. Time to go pick up my boy Xiao Xiong before he gets himself killed being too awesome. Fallen formation. We're rolling out. I strapped on my armor, grabbed my spear and sword, hopped on my horse, and rode out with 3,000 silent murder machines behind me. We got about 200 steps from the barbarian army when I heard it. That sharp, whistling arrow signal. The barbarian king's banner started wobbling and retreating. Hold up. Xiao Xiong actually did it. He punched straight through their entire army and almost grabbed the king's flag. I mean, yeah, that's my wolf riders. No big deal. Totally expected that. Definitely not impressed or anything. I raised my spear. Fallen formation. Wedge shape. Push forward. And oh man, watching these guys work was like watching a bulldozer eat a parking lot. Shields up front, spears behind, archers in the middle raining arrows, just grinding forward like a moving wall. The barbarian cavalry was already a mess from the yak stampede, so they couldn't even get a proper charge going. They just stood there and got steamrolled. Some brave idiots tried to rush us solo. Cute. My boys are wearing heavy armor. Those curved barbarian swords bounced off like pool noodles. And their long lances? Useless in close quarters. My guys would just grab the shaft, yank the rider off his horse, and chop him into sashimi. Seeing that everything was going smoothly, I thought, you know what? Why am I supervising from the back like a manager? I'm the main character. I kicked my horse and shot through the enemy lines like a comet until I pulled up next to Xiao Xiong. Yo, where's One Ear? Xiao Xiong nearly jumped out of his saddle. Your Highness? Why are you here? He immediately screamed at his wolf riders to form a protective ring around me. Classic overprotective general move. I ignored him and stood up on my saddle to get a better view. And that's when I spotted something that actually made me smile. That sneaky little brat Tudge. He was hiding behind his own father's royal banner, quietly reorganizing scattered cavalry into a proper charge formation. His plan? Let Daddy's flag lure us in. Wait until the wolf riders lost their momentum from fighting too long. Then BM, one massive countercharge to swallow us whole. This kid is using his own dad as bait, I muttered. Gotta respect the hustle. Xiao Xiong was not having it. Let me just kill him, Dan Xia. This brat is gonna be a problem. Tempting. Very tempting. But Zhou Sun's earlier advice was rattling around my brain. A living, Desperate, one-eared Tudge was worth way more to me than a dead one. Nah. Wolf Riders, scatter and keep the other barbarians from regrouping. Fallen formation is right behind us. Let this kid run face first into a brick wall. I wheeled my horse around, linked up with my fallen formation boys, and we snapped back into our anti-cavalry formation faster than you can say. You're screwed. And right on cue, the barbarian banner swung aside, opening a corridor, and here comes Tudge, leading the charge himself, screaming about destroying traitors and wiping out clans. Then he saw us. Not the Wolf Riders he was expecting. 3,000 heavily armored infantrymen standing there like a fortress that grew legs. Wolf Riders already flanking him on both sides. Nowhere to go. His face? Chef's kiss. Pure, I've made a terrible mistake, energy. Shall I? Fight me one-on-one, you coward. Oh, buddy. Buddy. I grabbed my bow, grinning ear to ear. Tudge, my man. You lost an ear to me. Your chances of becoming Khan are looking rough. But hey, I'm a generous guy. I cut off that ear. So how about I give you the Khan's throne to make up for it? Fair trade, right? I launched an arrow vaguely toward his daddy's banner. Didn't even aim. Pure theater. And I could literally see the gears turning in Tudge's head. He was thinking, why would Shao Lai let me live? Why offer me the throne? He wants me to rescue my father right now. Build my reputation. Take over. He rode forward. Alone. Stopped right in front of my formation. Close enough that my bodyguard Luo Dainiu could smell his BO. We stared at each other in dead silence. 1 heartbeat. 2. 3. Then Tudge pointed his sword at me and started screaming. How dare you insult me? I am Tug. I am an old man's puppet, and that's when I knew I had him. See, a dog that actually bites doesn't bark first. If Tudge truly found my offer that humiliating, he'd have either killed himself right there to prove his pride, or charged my formation in a blaze of glory. But he didn't. He just yelled. Which means he's angry about the disrespect, sure, but he's not saying no to the throne. Perfect. Time to seal the deal. I raised my fist and bellowed. Capture and kill Iron Timber. Avenge the northern frontier. 3,000 voices erupted behind me. Avenge the northern frontier. Tudge didn't need a second hint. He spun his horse and bolted toward his daddy's banner. Because right now was the perfect moment to play the loyal, heroic son who saves his father from certain doom. Resume material for future Khan interviews. To make it look convincing, I ordered a full assault. Arrows flying, formation charging, the whole show. Gotta make Tudge's rescue look dramatic and real. I watched him gallop away and clicked my tongue. Don't go dying on me now, little guy. Finding another dog to train would be such a hassle. 5 days after turning the barbarians' own yaks into flaming missiles of chaos, I did what any reasonable warlord would do. I blew all my money. Recruiting spree, baby. I had my guys Shin Chongyuan and Chun who running around like used car salesmen on the last day of the month, grabbing every able body they could find. Sons of the North. Who wants to join the army? We do. Cool. Here's a sword. Welcome aboard. 5 days. 12,000 troops. From basically nothing to a whole army. Were they trained? Absolutely not. Could most of them tell which end of a spear is the pointy one? Questionable. But that wasn't the point. See, Iron Timber, the barbarian Khan, was running away so fast he was basically a comet with a beard. He'd lost at Kangwu, got humiliated at Sangzhou, and I just clapped him at Yuzhou. The guy was done. And all those little tribes that came along for the raid. They grabbed their stolen loot and zoomed back to the grasslands like shoplifters hearing a police siren. So all I really needed was a big, scary-looking army to roll through the remaining cities and wave flags menacingly. And it worked. Half a month, and I recaptured all 5 northern provinces. The whole frontier. Mine. First order of business. Farming, fortress building, and making the border tighter than a drum. Second order of business. I found coal mines, dragged a bunch of craftsmen together, and after a lot of trial and error, we figured out how to make coke. Not the drink, the super hot fuel. Coke burns way hotter than regular wood, which meant my blacksmiths could now forge actual steel. I tested it personally. New steel sword versus old sword? The old one snapped like a breadstick. In this era, that's basically inventing lightsabers. Then I started on limestone, because if I've got coke, I can make cement. My inner construction nerd was going wild. I was drawing blueprints, planning infrastructure, basically becoming ancient China's Elon Musk, except I actually deliver on time. And then my treasurer walked in and murdered my vibe. Your Highness, stop. We're broke. Qian Wanli, my money guy, whose name literally means 10,000 miles of money, which is deeply ironic right now, came running and hugging an accounting book like it was his last will and testament. What do you mean broke? I collected a mountain of taxes in Sangzhou. You let them pay in grain instead of cash, remember?